Testing, testing, 1, 2. Rahubat, greetings. Welcome to the Actual Facts podcast, the Actual Facts channel. We welcome you all today. I appreciate you all tuning in. This is episode 17. It is the revealing of the facts, the hidden conspiracy against His Excellency, Dr. Malachi Z. York. This probably is one of the toughest episodes that I'm going to film and live stream because of the events and the living of the events, the reliving of the events that has taken place against our nation, our tribe, our people for the last really 300 years, 400 years to be exact. Within the last 24 years, our father has been incarcerated, right? Kidnapped by corrupt officials of illegal governments, propping themselves up, known as the state of Georgia and the colonial government of the federated colonies, right? As we know, they call them the United States, these colonies that had united in order to create a more perfect union. Right. And so today we're going to get directly into the conspiratorial plot against Dr. Malachi Z. York, when it started, how it started, and pretty much a lot of details and information that the public does not know. It's unfortunate that the last 24 years that the media has got a head start with this narrative speaking from their side, right, to paint the picture and defame and try to character assassinate His Excellency, our father, the father in flesh, Partner Bab Yanun, our president and head of state of Nuwaupian, the president of the United Nuwaupian Nation. So it's my job, I think, to make it clear and to clear up any misinformation that has been circulating around the public for the last 24 years. That's a very long time for misinformation to circulate. A lot of time for people to gather myths and what they feel and what they believe and what they think about the case and what they think they know. And so our job, as you know, in the actual facts is to set the record straight. And this is probably the first time you're going to hear the complete story. Why? Because as a son of Dr. Malachi Z. York, right, knowing and revealing the conspiracy, making people aware of the conspiracy, even making my father aware of the conspiracy. I'm going to go through a timeline so you can be clear on what exactly the hidden conspiracy is. Now, you may have heard of the conspiracy as it relates to the co-conspirators with this Yaqub Muhammad, this guy named Jacob Muhammad, right? Jacob York, he's called himself. That's one side of the conspiracy. Then there's the other side of the conspiracy and welcome you all. Thanks for tuning in. Make sure you share. Make sure you let people know that we're going live. I don't think they want to miss this. This is probably, I guess, like I said, one of the most important podcasts and episodes that we're going to do. Right. And so I'm going to paint a timeline so you can be aware of the parallel, the hidden conspiracy with the state of Georgia, the illegal state, the fraudulent state of Georgia, and why they targeted the United Nuwaupian Nation under the premise of these charges, which was false allegations, hearsay, and was conspired. It was a conspiratorial plot that took place that was seated in South Beach, Florida in 2001. And we're going to unfold that. We're going to cover that as well. We're also going to cover why the lands were targeted for a land grab with Georgia, which they did 250 years ago, right? And we have the documents here in front of us that's going to show the reason that they understood exactly what we were building as a nation. And we were claiming our territory because Georgia committed the most massive fraud the world has ever seen. And this fraud still haunts them to this day. And this fraud was uncovered and discovered as newly discovered evidence by us, which, right, the government of the United Nuwaupian Nation, right? 8 treaties were discovered to have been defrauded from the people of the southeastern area, the blacks, the Africans, indigenous, as well as the African slaves or human trafficked people that were brought to that land and mixed in with the indigenous Africans and bred a unique tribe known as Nuwaupians, or the people of Nuwaupu, or Sabaeans. And we'll get into that and who this newly created nation was and is, and why they targeted, why the South was considered the most, let's say, segregated place in the U.S., in the so-called U.S. Right now, when you look at the history of slavery, you can see the history of Georgia, Alabama, and Mississippi, and it's the reason why they targeted those 3 states. It's a reason why the government of Georgia colonized those 3 places and made them into states. There's a reason why Dr. Malachi Z came back and settled in a specific area known as Putnam County, right? And on lands that was the capital seat or capital city of what you know as Tamaray. And our nation has made claims to 90 million acres of land that was fraudulently taken in several instances and is still on the books. And for the record, for those that don't know, I brought all of the documents here, and the documents are going to also be in the clip, right? But I'm going to show them here. I have all of the documents to show and prove exactly why they targeted Dr. Malachi Z. And this is some of the treaties. So we're going to cover some of the treaties. This is an act from 1797. You can see that right on the front. This is one of the oldest. I don't know if it made 5th Congress. You look in the 5th Congress, you'll see how early that was, right? Because the United States was the Declaration of Independence, 1776. This is about 20 years later, the 5th Congress. We also have documents from the National Archives records, right? This is stamped and sealed from the National Archives in DC. So you can see, I hope you see that there. That's an official stamp. If you zoom in, you can see that. We're going to cover this as well. This is one of the treaties. And this is a requirement to show and prove how they stole the lands in the 1700s and why Dr. Malachi York came back to claim our territory in 1992, because he was aware of this fraud. He was aware of what they did. And in his efforts to free us, one of the criteria was to complete what the let's say his predecessors, the great leaders that came before him, such as the Honorable Elijah Muhammad, such as Deuce Ali and Noble Drew Ali and Marcus Garvey, what they had to do, or what they weren't able to complete, was a true nation building. And part of the nation building is to come back and bring the people back to the land in which they're indigenously inherited to, and by rightful claims under international law, they have a right to live, because that land is what gives them sustenance as any nation on the planet. And so His Excellency, Dr. York, was aware of this, and he was aware of the effects of colonialism and how other African nations had to decolonize. We had to decolonize as well. But because the United States, in their hidden fraud and the hidden conspiracy, they targeted him without his people, you all, knowing why, right? Why they did this, why they came after him. They painted the picture of this conspiracy and these charges of RICO, etc. But that wasn't the reason. The real reason was the land and us uncovering the fraud, which we did. And we have the records. And this is your land that we have made claims to. And you'll see that. This is another one of the treaties that was a fraud. That's a fraudulent treaty. This is from 1821. This is one of the Treaty of Indian Springs. This is another document that we're going to cover. This is the Native Indigenous Removal Act, which is an illegal compact. It was signed into legislature in 1830 by Andrew Jackson. This is also illegal. It violates the law of nations, forcibly removing people from their territory, which is illegal in all facets of law. We also have, and I'm just going through this because you have to have a clear understanding on exactly why they targeted Dr. Malachi Z. York, why they hindered the growth and the pursuit of your independence as a nation to prevent you having a safe haven when Babylon falls, as we covered in the last episode. This is a treaty from 1825. Actually, this is 1821. The other one is 1825. This is the other treaty of Indian Springs, right? Maybe you can see it. The camera gets focuses in on it. This is an original seal. So these are from the National Archives. If you can tune in, you'll see it. This is from the National Archives and Records of Administration. Also, we have, right, Rahobat. Everything is going to be made clear about why they did this and attempted to do this to prevent our independence and coming from up under the rule of colonialists, right? This is the act. This is the rescinding act. This was signed. It's from the public lands document from the American State Papers. This was signed in 1798 by George Matthews, who was the governor of Georgia at the time, right? They signed this to undo the illegal purchase of our territorial lands that they sold to maybe about a few hundred colonialists, people, European buyers who were coming in to America as immigrants. The Georgia government had created 4 companies. These 4 companies were created to sell our territory, Nuwaupian Nation's territory. And when they sold the territory, it was found out later that they didn't own the land, right? It was found out later that they didn't have ownership. And this is the act that they used to sell the land. This is hidden in the American State Papers. This is all documented, right? This is not speculation. This is not something that is unknown. This is a public lands on page 152, January 10th, 1803. This is an act supplementary to an act entitled an act of appropriating a part of unsettled or uninhabited territory, right? This is the Mississippi, Alabama lands. This is what they used to sell the lands. This is what they used, this is what they used to sell the lands. This is what they used to declare it null and void because they knew it was illegal. And the United States Supreme Court said that Georgia no longer could take claims of this territory because they sold it in fraud. How do you know they sold it in fraud? Because we have this, the 1803 land cessions. And this is going to tie into Dr. Malachi Z. York and him claiming the territory for you all so you can have a nation. In this day and time, when you see the Caucasoid and his system falling, you would have your own land, your own language, your own ability to survive and control your own fate and not be at the whim of other governments and people who have not your best interests at heart. And so this is the 1803 land cessions, right? Look at this, another American State Paper. You see number 69 on there, Georgia Sessions. The U.S. brought this land, an article of agreement of land cessions entered into on the 24th day of April, 1802, between commissioners appointed on the part of the United States by virtue of an act entitled an act to the amicable settlement of limit with the state of Georgia and authorizing the establishment of a government in the Mississippi Territory. This is where they established their government in the Mississippi Territory. They sold it to the U.S. because they had claimed fraud. There was fraudulent land that the Georgia had claimed. It was found out to be fraud, that they didn't own the land, that we owned the land. They went ahead and sold it to the U.S., and the U.S. held it to this day and allowed Georgia to create 3 separate governments, Alabama, Mississippi, and Georgia, and took the entire territory from the indigenous African people and implemented slavery for their economic exploitation, which is illegal in international law. So this is the record. I have the records. They sit in the embassy archives. Another record we have, and we're going to discuss, is this is their receipt. I have the receipts. People say, oh, you got receipts. No, this is a literal receipt. This is a list of the claimants. As you can see, right? I'll post it on the clip. So make sure you tune in. You see this list. You see these people here. This is the amount of money that is owed. And this is the people that have made claims to the land. It's a list of these people that have made claims to this land. And when they made claims to the land, because Georgia had sold it to them, Georgia says, no, we don't own it. We don't have papers to it. The Nuwaupians own the land. The indigenous own this land, but they kept it a secret. And what they did was they said, because we don't have the money, they sent these claimants to the Department of Treasury in 1818, November 18th, key number, November 18th, 1818, right here. You'll see it, right? That's the date. This is from the Department of Treasury, right? Signed by, look his name up. You don't believe me? Check it out. Treasury Department Registrar's Office. You'll see Joseph Nourse, Nourse. Type in his name. This is number 6. Now, this awards in favor of, listen to this, right? It says, claiming under the Upper Mississippi Company, the Tennessee Company, the Georgia Mississippi Company, the Georgia Company, right? And the name of the claimants, the list is long. This is what Georgia had to pay these claimants: $4,289,153 to these claimants for selling our land to them, and they didn't have title. So what does this mean? It means that because they wanted to, the Georgia colony, when you see the 13th colony, you wonder, why isn't there a 14th colony? Why didn't they continue to colonize? If you have Virginia, you have North and South Carolina, you have the state of Maryland, you have Delaware, you have New Jersey, you have William Penn, Pennsylvania, you have West Virginia, Queen Victoria, you have North and South Carolina, King Charles, you have King George II. What happened to, why didn't you change the name of Alabama to a foreign name? Why didn't you change Mississippi to a foreign name? Because you could no longer colonize because of Georgia's fraud. It's called the Yazoo land fraud. And this fraud, when it was found out that the Georgia had committed the fraud, the U.S. had to keep it hidden. So in order to conspire to keep it hidden, the U.S. brought the lands from Georgia. And this is it. I just showed you the 1802 land cessions, right? This Georgia land cessions right here. They sold the land and said, hey, we're going to give you power to create 2 additional states, colonize the southeastern area, the entire Nuwaupian Nation's territory, right? Took your land, and this is why the entire South was segregated, and they kept them out of the schools. They kept you from learning where the fraud was. Where was the fraud hidden? It was hidden in the University of Georgia. This is where all the documents are tied in. Now, let's move forward, because we have the claims of the land, and we know that now that the southeastern area of the U.S., of the Americas, known as Alabama, Mississippi, is a fraudulent state. The Georgia government is a fraudulent government. They've been served these documents. They know they're operating in fraud. They know they have no jurisdiction over you. They know they have no jurisdiction over melanated people. They know they have no jurisdiction or control over blacks of the Americas. They know they have no control or no jurisdiction over you. You give them their power by accepting their power, by accepting their administrative authorities, by accepting their constitution that you're not in. The reason you're not written in their constitution is because, as we spoke about this before, you are considered property in the drafting of the Constitution. There's a book called The Slavery and the Founders, right, by John Finkelman, right? Slavery and the Law. Let me get that so you can see where you can find some sources right here, right? 2 books that I make reference to, right? Oftentimes, this book by Paul Finkelman, right? Slavery and the Law and Slavery and the Founders. This Slavery and the Founders, right, gives you information about how the founders wrote you. If you're African, if you're indigenous, if you are black in America, you were not written in their constitution as a citizen. You were written in there as property, and they changed the names of slaves to other persons. The fugitive slave clause, the 3/5 of a person, the taxation clause of imports and exports. That's all you as the product. And because you're not written in their constitution, you don't have rights in their constitution, as the Dred Scott case shows you. And because of that, you're not under their jurisdiction unless you accept you as property, unless you accept yourself as property. And that's why when our father, when you go forward to 1992, when we propped him up in a vote, a lot of people are not aware of that. They under this misconception that this vote that we're doing is something new. It's all of a sudden coming from out of nowhere. It's confusing. I'm hearing all of these lies that people trying to create confusion about something that you accepted when you accepted His Excellency Dr. Malachi York as your president when you moved to the land, when you were invited to the territory. You didn't know that his method of reaching our people was different from other leaders. Other leaders, when they came to reach their children or their students or as a freedom fighter, they came to the land that the people were already on. When you go to Africa and South America and other places, our people are already on the land there. They already have their land. Their land wasn't defrauded from them. They still have their languages. They still have their culture. They were just colonized because a government came in, a foreign government came in and settled upon their lands and controlled them and economically exploited them. Your situation is quite different. When you were brought to the territories and when they found indigenous Blacks, Africans on the territory from a previous migration, you were there already. Right? I'm not talking about the Asian Indians that came through the Bering Strait that people claim you're tied into. Not that seed. You're not of the Denisofan seed. You're not of that seed. You're of the Anasazi seed, which were the African seed that came up from South America, Cuba, and migrated into the Americas and landed and settled in that southeastern area when those Spanish conquistadors and other explorers came in. They wrote you down in the books as places where they found. So they called you Creeks. They called you Blackfoot because you were in the swamps. They gave you names that you were not calling yourself. So you don't know what you were calling yourself. When our father and his incarnation had to gather the tribes, gather the people under one banner, under one umbrella, in order to birth your nation again. And most people were misunderstood the mission. They were trying to figure out what he was doing instead of just paying attention and sitting down and learning. They were running up ahead of him, trying to do the things that he was set out to do. They tried to run ahead of him in order to create their own thing. And Negroes, that's what they do. People, they think they know and they're intelligent. They think they have the insight. They think they're the next imam. They think they're the next rabbi. They want to be the next leader. So they look at a divine incarnated being that had a special mission to raise you up and place you in an environment, right, on your land and territory. So when it was time to say, this is our nation, you will already be there. That was the reason why we moved from up north, Liberty, down to the south. He already told us we were coming down to the south in 1991. And this is going to tie into the fake charges that they claim that he transported minors across state lines, right, when he wasn't even in a car with minors. He was driving with his wife. And we know that because we helped pack upstate for him to move down. So it wasn't what this facade of what they portray to the public is what we were going to set straight here on the actual facts. So let's get back to how he had to come and teach you all and implement and give your nation back, right? Give your nation your flag under the Nubian Nation. When you hear Nubian Nation, that goes way back to the 70s. That's not something new. Nation building is not anything new. It's not people say, oh, it's a religious organization. It's not a religious organization. We are people who have come from various religious backgrounds. So you have Muslims who are part of the Nuwaupian Nation or coming out of Islam that have realized that Islam was a enslaving, mentally deadening doctrine. So they're converting from Islam and they're acknowledging that they are reasoning people by Nuwaupu. You have Hebrews who are studied maybe under the Hebrew Israelites and realizing that their Yahweh or their God is a bloodthirsty, sacrificing God. Yes, but they are a part of the Nuwaupian Nation. You have Christians, right, who became a part of the Nuwaupian Nation when they found out that the Caucasoid image of the gods of foreigners was detrimental to our mental health. So we're not a religious organization. All nations have a diversity of religions. Anywhere you go, it's just Negroes in America. You don't know what a nation is or how a nation is built. And I'm not talking about my family. I'm talking about people that don't know what they're talking about now and don't know what Dr. Malachi York was doing. So for you all to be aware, this is his method was to bring people out of the religion, at the same time build a nation for you to say this is our own. So he had to reintroduce a language to you because you lost your language. Other freedom fighters didn't have to reintroduce the language to the people. Kwame Nkrumah didn't have to reintroduce the language or tree or Fanti to my Ghanaian family because they were still speaking their tongue. When you go to Kenya, Uganda, and Rwanda, they didn't have to reintroduce a language to them because they were already speaking their language when the colonialists got there. The colonialists did you differently. They took your land through fraud and incorporated the land into territories through organic acts called the Organic Acts, the United States Organic Acts. Look it up. You'll see how they take organic material, land, and convert it to a corporate fiction or corporate entity and make it the state of such and such. But because Georgia had committed the fraud, the United States and Georgia had a secret alliance that never let the blacks of the South know that they don't own it. This is why they never invested in the land. They never invested in Mississippi. Look at the statistics of Mississippi and see why there's no infrastructure developed there. Why there's no investments in Alabama. Why is it all of a sudden these two places in the whole country have the worst education, has the worst infrastructure, has the worst sewage, has the worst, household income per household. Look how low the income per household is. Some people are just still thinking slavery is in existence still to this day. Why? Because they could not allow anyone in that area to read or get educated, because if you go to UGA, the UGA conspiracy, the same UGA conspirators that conspired against Dr. York, all of the judges was from UGA. All of the lawyers was from UGA, the University of Georgia in Clark County. So it was a conspiracy from them before the Jacob York conspiracy came in. Jacob York and them was used. It wasn't about no alleged victims, because there weren't, first of all, there was a massive amount of prosecutorial misconduct that we're going to go through, violations of modern rules of professionalism. Then you have prosecutorial violations. They violated the Brady rule. They violated the Giglio rule. They violated the modern rules of professional conduct. They also violated, the other rules of lawyer rule 1.8, which is the current client specific rules and client lawyer relationship. So those rules they violated before they even arrested Dr. Malachi Z. York, because we have the affidavits, and these are 10 affidavits from people. We're going to go through it as we talk. These are affidavits from people who said that the feds came to them before the arrest and said, we know these things happen. We know you're trying to cover it up. They like nothing ever happened. We know you're hiding for Dr. York. If you don't testify and say this and say that, and gave them stories that other people heard and other people said, if you don't repeat these stories, then guess what? We're going to lock you up and arrest you for perjury. We know what your mother did. We know what your father did. Scare tactics that they use to make people afraid, because if you know, like I know, like the individuals who were raised in the community, such as myself, I moved in, right, in 1987 when my mother signed custody papers over to my father. In 1987, I was 12 years old, so you know my age. I was 12, and I said I wanted to move with my father. I had my heavy ties was to Africa. My mother's half African. She was an orphan. My mother was adopted by my grandmother, her adopted mother. Her name is Obedient Pryor. That's my grandmother's name, right? She was a indigenous Native American. My grandmother, my adopted grandmother, right? So my mother signed me over to the community, and anyone knows me know I was raised in the Ansar community amongst the Mukminun and Mukminati, the young faithful children of the community, to be a part of the 144,000. And I was raised by my father. I'm not a person that just came in after the flood, after people lying all over the internet, using my name to try to get a platform, trying to speak about things they don't know. You don't know what you're talking about. I have elders right now to this day that still, right, love me and care about me as they did when I was 12 growing up in the community, going to Overbrook High School and Masterman as a young boy. My father gave me the name Basil Muhammad. Basil Isa El Mahdi. That is my name given by my father, right? My mother's name gave me an alias so I can go to school because she was an illegal immigrant. So you don't know what you're talking about. I was there amongst these young Aulad and young Mukminun and Mukminati. I moved to New York as a disciple. I moved down to the South with my father in New Orleans. Then I moved to Monticello, and I was raised amongst them. And yes, I did know Jacob York. Why? Because we lived in a community together. All of the boys and girls knew each other from various communities, from Brooklyn to Baltimore to Philadelphia to Pittsburgh to New Jersey. I was there. We chanted and prayed 5 times a day in the masjid. We said Suratul Fajr, Suratul Dhuhr, all of our prayers, right? Suratul Fatiha. We had our Nisfu Min Shaban. We fasted in the month of Ramadan. We had all of the Islamic traditions that we practice as an Ansar. None of us was exposed to the world. So when you talk about Jacob York and these individuals, these alleged victims, they were all raised in the community. They weren't exposed to the devil's world. They had no idea what the feds had in store. They had no idea that Dr. Malachi York was being targeted by the federal FBI since the 70s. They didn't know. So we were protected. When we moved down to the land, as you get older, you want to experience the world. This is something that all teenagers do. Whatever environment a teenager is raised in, there's a certain biological clock that kicks in that allows them to say, well, let's see what the world is like. I have my own mind. Hormones start kicking in. Sexual attraction kicks in, right? Undisciplined sexual attraction. Things that young adults do. Young children experiment. 13, 14 teenagers got their girlfriends and boyfriends. This is part of biology. This has nothing to do with what Dr. York was doing and teaching and raising and building a nation. The people that wanted to leave, right? They didn't have a place to go. They wanted to leave the land. Some people wanted to because they were being disobedient. A lot of times when you have disrespectful, disobedient children, sometimes you have to put them out the church. You have to put them out the mosque. You have to put them out the synagogue. You have to say, go on your own because you're too disrespectful here. You can't handle the spiritual discipline. So it's something you want to experience. Go off and experience it. And then when you get knocked upside your head enough, when the world disrespects you and beats you down enough, sometimes you may come back, right? It happens everywhere. It happens in everyone's household. Doesn't matter if you're religious. It doesn't matter if you're a millionaire. Some of the most people with all of the substance and things that they need, their children turn out to be demons because they want to grow up and they want to be a rapper. They want to be a model. They have all of the money. They have all of the cars. They have the houses. Their parents are millionaires, etc. But they still run off into the devil's world. And a lot of the ex-members of our community, that's what happened because the devil was trying to lure the Mukminun and the Mukminati out of the community, and coming in and bringing in the devil's world into our nation. How do I know? Because I was there. I've seen young boys my age, 14, 15, and 16. When they left, they become criminals. They go off and try to do the most in the world to prove themselves that they're amongst the hip crowd. A lot of them got locked up for murder, locked up for robbery, 30 and 40 years. A lot of the Mukminun that was raised amongst us. That's what happened. Jacob York was one of them. He went out into the world. He started using my father's name, the York records, because he was let's say, interested in the music industry. He got a taste of the buzz. He got a few videos with Jazzo featured in there when Jay-Z was coming around the community. Brand Nubians was coming around the community. All throughout Brooklyn, Dougie Fresh, all of them was coming to the studio to see Dr. York and him teach them how to become independent, how to own their own record label, how to get their own distribution. This is what Dr. York taught the music industry. So a lot of my brothers was lured to the Dr. York part of the entertainment world. And Jacob York was one of them. So when he looked like he made it in the industry and he looked like he made it in the world in the 90s, right? And moving into with Little Kim, and when you talk having a Junior Mafia, being involved with Biggie, these are some of the things that us in the community, if you look on the outside, it looks alluring. When you're building a nation from the ground up and the discipline is there and you have to pray and you have to go to holy sites and acknowledge your ancestors and fast and spiritually purify yourself, some people didn't have the discipline. So they went off into the world. Where do you go into the world when you don't know anybody? You find the common denominator. So a lot of them was like, oh, let's call Jake. Jake knows what's going on. I want to go to Atlanta so I can party. This is when we moved down to the South. So Jacob York, they didn't know the other side of him. They didn't know about his anger and his resentment to my father, to our father, because of things that happened to his mother that our father had no responsibility for. He had no, she had health issues, right? Jake blamed that on my father. His mother had just things that I think she passed away, right? Jacob York blamed that on Dr. Malachi York, right? When the father was teaching and putting out music, right? He was creating images of feminine deities who were performing in music that was spiritually enlightening and helping raise and transform the females. Jacob York wanted to put out Little Kim. He didn't have the money. So he came to the land. He came to our nation. He came to our president and asked Baba. I was there. He asked Baba for $1 million to put out Little Kim. He also had Cameron up there in New York at the time with Unentertainment. How do I know? Because I was around. I was known up there. I was known as Basil. It wasn't my forte to be in the music industry, but I had the charisma and the ability if I wanted to do that. That wasn't my job. My job was to be taught by the Father, and that's where I stayed. And I've been here since then. But I was aware of his mentality. I knew the type of devil he was. I knew how he was tormenting the young boys and disrespecting them because he was Imam's son and he was the son of Imam Isa. So he would carry that around and throw his weight around. And a lot of the young feminine who were unbeknowing virgins, a lot of them who were naive, let's say, to the world, and he painting this picture, I'm this son of Imam Isa, blah, 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 whatever the case, they became attracted to that. And when it was time for them to go explore the world, they went to him. But deep in Jacob's heart, he wanted to bring down the father since the 80s. When he had issues with him since way back when he had to get kicked out of the community for sexual acts he was performing and his little perversions that he was trying to keep hidden, right? And so this was not something that Dr. Malachi York was involved with. He was writing. The father wasn't even living in Brooklyn most of the time. He had another house and he lived upstate. The same thing happened when we moved to our territory, right, in our nation building, right? And he said we all have to move down to the South. There's a video that they should have played in court, right, when they arrested him, because one of the charges they tried to say was he transported people, right? They say minors. I don't know where they admitted in court that they had no evidence or no body or witness to corroborate whether or not he brought anybody down with intent. You can't prove intent. You don't know why a person is driving down from moving from one place to the next. If that's the case, anything you do traveling from across state lines, if they want to pin a charge on you, they can say, well, you intended to do this. You intended to do that. They can say this witness said you came down to do this, so you traveled from there to do that. That's what intent was. He was not charged, and I'm not going to use the M word, They try to say use the M word and the P word. I'm not using those words because those are trigger words. These are words that the devil used to trigger people's emotions, right? To give him a court in the public opinion. By using those words, it affects the emotion part of human beings. It has nothing to do with facts. That's why this case, right? This case, when you talk about the case and you hear Dr. York, they admittedly say, oh, he was charged with M of minor. And that wasn't his charge. His charge was transportation. And they said he transported, but then they added RICO on there. And the RICO is, I'm like, how did you get RICO? The whole point of them, right, when they say, oh, RICO, what is RICO? RICO is racketeering, influence, and corrupt organizations. So how did you have RICO attached to a person and you didn't arrest the whole organization? Because they wanted the RICO on it, so because the statute of limitations to try to paint the entire nation as a criminal enterprise to keep the Nuwaupian people, his people who were claiming independence, moving in the step of taking this land back that they stole in the 1700s, 1800s, and enslaving you. They were trying to eliminate you from acknowledging this and finding this out because they never had jurisdiction to lock anyone up in the first place. Now let's get back to this this Jacob York conspiracy, and then I'll tie it in. I'll show you how it ties into SEALs, because what they don't want you to catch the mistakes that they committed and the lies that they told, because if they keep placing child and then the N word, child and then the P, it clouds your vision, because like I said, with the emotional part of human beings, they know how to control you just by emotions. They know they can control you through sensationalism. They know they can show a fake movie to you, fake actors with fake costumes, and you will literally respond with your nervous system and become afraid. That's not voluntary. That's not a voluntary response. That's an involuntary response. So most people that are being triggered by this case and triggered by the words are responding involuntarily, and they don't know why they have negative feelings. You have negative feelings because the devil knows how to control your emotions. He can make you, everyone can relate to a child. Everyone can relate to even you were a child. If you had negative experiences as a child, or someone did something to you as a child, and someone say, well, he did this to a child, that immediately triggers defensive. You become defensive against that person, and you'll create a case against that person, even if your case, the case that you have from your childhood traumas, can be triggered by something that's happening today. They know that about psychology. They call unhealed traumas. So they use that to trigger there's only one word that can trigger every human being, and that's child. Because everyone was a child. You may have not been, you may be a male, but not been a female. You've never been a female. You may be a female, and you've never been a male. You may be an uncle, never been an aunt. You may be a mother, never been a father. You may be a grandmother, never been a grandfather, right? All of those things, a doctor, but everyone has been a child. So it's easy to create a case with hearsay because you won't get past the child part. And that's why when you look at the case, you ask the person, was Dr. Malachi York charged with child M? No. Was there children in the court? No, there were no children in the court. How? Because I was there. I was in court. Not only was I in court, I know it seems like I'm just trying to tie it all in, right? Because there's a lot. And I said it was very difficult to speak of because I'm reliving the events as I'm talking about it. Because when I learned about the conspiracy, right? I learned about the conspiracy while I was locked up. Now, let's back up before I get to that part. Jacob, right, and these other co-conspirators, right, they all moved down to the South as well. Why are they in the indictment as people who Dr. Malachi York transported? Y'all, you moved down, Jacob. Everyone in the community moved down to the South. In fact, we were the ones responsible for the explosion of the Olympics in 96. When the people from the North came down to the South, the whole nation moved down to the South because we were coming to our territory. No one knew about Atlanta. We was going there when it wasn't even spoken of. In 1991, there's a class that the father expressed on it. It's called the Elohim tape. He said, I have to take you to the South to get you closer to the sun. They put your feet on the soil on our territory. He said, I cannot tell you what I'm doing because the devil will run 10 steps ahead of me and try to thwart our plans. He had to bring us down to the south to get our feet on the land, the territory. So when we make the claim to the international world, when you make the claim to the international world, your feet would already be there. You will already have built your cities there. You would already be speaking your language. We would already have an economic system. We will already have our education institutions. We will already have our businesses, our restaurants, our theaters, our real estate. We already had our own water supply. We already had our own electric company being built to generate our own electric. We didn't need necessarily gas, right? Well, now it's colder, but the gas, we had the ability to tap into the gas reservoirs there. All of our natural resources was on our land. No one knew that Georgia had defrauded the land except the European Masonic institutions. They were aware of it because they hid it, and they hid it in their schools. How do you know they hid it in their schools? Because in UGA, when you go to UGA, it wasn't unsegregated until 1979. In 1979, that's when they said, oh, everyone could come into the schools and study law. By then, they already had created a segregated environment where the counties of Georgia, right? The counties that you see, the counties that you see are named after Caucasoid immigrants who were moving in and getting lands from the Georgia land lotteries. What are the Georgia land lotteries? The Georgia land lotteries are after they stole the treaties, Treaty of Fort Jackson, 1810, Treaty of New York, 1790, Treaty of Fort Wilkinson, look it up, 1802, Treaty of Fort Washington, 1803, Treaty of Indian Springs, 1821, Treaty of Indian Springs 2, 1825. The moment they stole those through coercion, force, right, misrepresentation, through two culprits, Alexander McGilvray and William McIntosh, the McIntosh family from Scotland. They invited the colonialists, the settlers brought the Scottish into St. Iverness near Savannah, and they set up their colonies, 13 colonies they call parishes off the coast, 25 miles in off the coast of Georgia. And in order to take Nuwaupian land, in order to take Nubian Nation's land, in order to take your land, they invited the Scottish Highlanders. They were called the Berserkers because they were known to go to war and execute people to steal their land. They're in the northern highland of Scotland. Look up the Scottish Highlanders, right? They were brutal Vikings of the Scottish Gaelic seed of the Nordic stock. They were big, monstrous meat eaters, flesh eaters. They would just do monstrous things to people and come in and destroy the families, destroy the tribes. So James Oglethorpe invited them on a boat with 157 of them. This is a fact. I have all of the records. You see, I keep all of the records here. Tons of records, tons of documents. Everything is recorded. When they brought them in, they started marrying into the indigenous Wind Clan females of the southeastern area. They started mixing in. William McIntosh Sr. had a son named William McIntosh Jr. from the McIntosh clan, right? Called the clan of Chathan. Chattan. These are the McIntosh. Anytime you see Mac, it came from the Scottish. They came in, Alexander McGilvray. Type in Alexander McGilvray, 1790, the Treaty of New York. That was the first treaty they stole, lands they signed. Is 3 secret articles in the treaty, which is fraud because you can't hide secret articles in a treaty from the other party. Those treaties have been vitiated. They're null and void. They don't exist. Georgia has no jurisdiction over that land. The Treaty of Fort Wilkinson is where our territory was on, between the two rivers, the Oconee and the Ocmulgee River. You look it up. It splits at Altamaha River. It's the third largest river coming into the Atlantic Ocean. It's in Georgia. You'll see it. It stops in Louisville. It splits, and our land was right in the middle. And they described the territory as the most fertile land in the world because it was split between two rivers, the same way the White and the Blue Nile was split. When you look at the White and Blue Nile, it splits at a junction. And that junction in between there, in that area, when the waters inundated and the flood came, it would it would fertilize, and it will water all of the lands in between. Well, that's where Tamaray, our land, stood in the Americas, on our territory. And it was a capital city to say we as a nation are claiming all of the land you stole as colonists, as migrants coming to this land under your King George, under a charter that's illegal, right? He's a foreigner to us. There's no George sovereign over anyone on the American territory. You don't know King George. You're not related to him. He was a European king, and he only had sovereignty in Europe. You can't transfer sovereignty from one place to another and then prop up a government and arrest anybody from our nation, including our president. And that's why his argument was this. A lot of people miss his argument. They'll say, oh, we're fighting on his freedom in this way. We're fighting on his freedom in that way. We're fighting on his freedom based on what he said. What did he say in court? Do you remember? He said, I am a sovereign. You have no jurisdiction over me. You are a settler. And this is a fact. They still don't have jurisdiction over you. You can't say that a person comes to another land and set up a government to economically exploit you, to kill you, to rape you, your descendants, to enslave you, implement black codes in their laws, to dehumanize you, hang you, tar and feather you, feed your babies to alligators, subjugate you to the most cruelest, vicious, the list goes on, genocide, ethnocide. You can get to all of the injuries in international law against a sovereign nation. And then when we decide to decolonize and we decide to do things on our own because we're tired of complaining, we're tired of marching, we're tired of protesting, we're tired of going to you, asking you, can we vote? Negroes fought for 10 years, 15, 30, 20, whatever amount of years to vote. Now, when we say we can vote, Negroes want to have a problem with that. You fought to get bit by dogs. You fought and got bit by dogs in the street. You got clubbed upside your head, sprayed with fire hoses, right? Locked up, beat up, hung, killed to vote in their system. The reason they didn't let you vote because you can't vote because you're not of their system. You are property to them. So they can't let you vote. You can't get equal rights in their system. You can't go and ask for them for anything because it's not written, because it's in the founders, slavery and the founders. The founders wrote it in the Constitution. So you cannot get anything from them. They can't give it to you. I don't care how much you beg and act like you got injustices and, oh, they did this to us. They done beat us up. They keep doing this. They won't give us civil rights. They won't give us fair housing. They won't give us equal opportunity. They won't give us a shot in their corporate entities. We have it hard because they can't. They're not allowed to because their Constitution forbids them because it's for we, the people. Who? Them and their people. You have to do it on your own. Period. There's nothing else for you. Stop complaining to everybody around the world, trying to get this, trying to get that from people. They're not going to give you anything. Only you can free yourself. And this is the mentality that our president and chief, His Excellency, Dr. Malachi York, laid out for us to do on our own. And that's why we began to nation build. That's why we had our own products. And when we erected the obelisk, which is a symbol of sovereignty. I said this before. When he erected that obelisk, it was a sign to Shields. It was a sign to all of the so-called higher ups that's the nation right there. He's the one. That guy right there, Dr. Malachi Z. York. You better paint him as a crazy one. You better paint him as a child P. You better paint him as a whatever you can to defame him to his people. You better make sure you spend hundreds of millions of dollars to make sure we get that territory back because we know we don't own that land. You better make sure you make the people, his people, turn on him. You better create Senate COINTELPRO, and you better attack the people that's trying to free him. You better put the same charges on the people that's getting this conspiracy out. And you want to know why I've been attacked for 24 years? Is because when I learned about the conspiracy, right? When I learned about the conspiracy, let's move up, right? So you understand now, okay, so the stage was set because the devil now had a way to get in to the nation. They had to try to figure out a way how to defame, make his own people turn on him. Right? Because there's only something that only certain things that outsiders can do. The Georgia government, right? The United States government, they only could do a certain amount of things without sending someone in to try to infiltrate and create chaos and create discord and create division. Still to this day, they're doing it. Still to this day, they're still seeping around, throwing little confusing innuendos like, oh, I don't know what they're doing. We don't know. That's confusing. It's not confusing to who? You? Now it's confusing everyone. One person say it's confusing. So now it's confusing. No, it's not, because you wasn't there and you didn't follow the Father and understand and read his text and understand what he was doing when he stood in court and said, I'm a sovereign. You have no jurisdiction. The fight that we're fighting is the jurisdiction aspect. How did they claim jurisdiction over us as a people? Where, at what point did that start? And the moment you realize, oh, you're a visitor. You created a document. You created a Georgia Constitution that's written on some paper by a person. And this is what you call the chains of authority. This is what you send someone to say, come into my court, and listen to what I have to say, because I'm over you, right? You are summoned to be court. You have a court order. You have a warrant for your arrest, and it's signed off by someone. Why is it being signed from? Who are you? Who are you signing this to tell someone to come pick me up? Where did you get this authority from? How did you get this authority where are you from? You're from Scotland. So what authority did you establish on this territory for you to say that we are to obey and abide by the laws that you laid out against us as so-called slaves? It doesn't work that way. Not in this day and time. So the Father said when he erected the obelisk to establish sovereignty, that's when they attacked. That's when they used Jacob and the co-conspirators, people that were part of a specific family. Not a whole bunch of alleged victims and so-called children and all this. It wasn't none of that. These were adults. There were no children in trial. There were no children on record. They have no medical evidence. They have no pictures. They have no DNA. The first thing you're supposed to present in court of the charges of this magnitude and the so-called violence is a medical expert. That's the first thing they do to get examinations so they can show the physical evidence of so-called assault or whatever you claim and these alleged victims had. Secondly, you don't create a situation where you're offering, if the case is so airtight, why do I have 10 affidavits of people that was offered concessions, favorable concessions, in order for their testimony, in exchange for their testimony? How come 5 of the alleged victims that you call on to testify against Dr. York told you on the stand that nothing happened to them? Why is it that you cut the media off from seeing what was taking place in the court? Right? Why did you do that? Because these so-called star witnesses, they all wrote affidavits. Habiba Washington affidavit is right here. This affidavit is 5 pages long, 6 pages long, signed by a lawyer. 6 pages long, signed by her, sworn in by a notary of DeKalb County. This was done in Georgia. Dwight Johnson signed it, April 23rd, 2004. Then you have Ebony Hill, who testified in court against Dr. Malachi York, and she lied on the stand. And now when she came out, she said they lied. They coerced me. They told me if I didn't tell these stories that I would be arrested. She wrote this, and I got this affidavit from her because she didn't trust nobody. This is the reason I know what took place, because these affidavits, I hired an attorney for her, Ebony Hill. Ebony Hill signed. This was signed on May 5th, May 17th, 2007, right? It says, after a fine is over 18, a fine is of sound mind, a fine has known the defendant for 19 years, a fine has never been abused, inappropriately touched, mistreated, and or transported across state lines for said purposes by the defendant as a child or as an adult. A fine has never seen anyone, child, being right, abused, inappropriately touched, mistreated, etc. And this is her handwritten. So people that say, oh, we don't know if she really, this is her handwritten testimony, because the lawyer at the time said it's important that you write it as well as type it, and then you sign both. And she made a video affidavit. When I said at trial, I felt pressured to say, and felt that if I went with the flow of what was being said, that I could get back at Dr. York because I was angry, right? For the record, I never saw any of the allegations like child M or any mishandling of money. I did not leave because I was M or feared or forced to do anything. I left because I was young and I wanted to go out into the world on my own. Where did she go? Who else? Right? Who else did they went to Jake. Jacob was welcoming them because he had a conspiracy plot on his own, because he was facing charges for racketeering. He was facing sexual charges in New York. He was also facing infringement acts because the NBA was about to sue Cameron for his sex, drugs, and money logo, where he had the NBA logo guy holding a gun instead of a basketball. He had a bunch of things against him, and he was responsible for it. He was responsible for duplicitous acts amongst the music industry. They called him Jake the Snake. He had issues with Gucci Mane. He had issues with all of his so-called artists. He was embezzling money from them. And these are facts. This is legal. This is not gossip. This is not slander. So they went to him. And when they went to him, as you read what I just read with Ebony, she was not the only one. Barbara Noel, David Noel, they all went down on this South Beach trip. And I was invited to the South Beach trip, not by them. They was making it appear as though, oh, all of Mukmanoon, the people of the tribe that, you know, that grew up in the community, they was using this grew up in the community. I grew up in the community, yes. But was I in South Beach? No, I didn't go. Why? Because I don't like Jake. I never did. I've brushed shoulders with him. We were in the community together. He was my so-called brother, or is my I don't know, right? We don't know. I don't know who he is, right? Because his heart and mind in doing that against our father is not something that is in our blood. So I can't speak for him. But no, I didn't go to South Beach, right? I heard about South Beach. And Jake, my brother Ayub, may he rest in peace, I was not aware of the conspiracy in 2001. I knew they went to South Beach, but it was none of my business because I wasn't involved in that world. I had a child. I was with my girl, and I was still on the land. I was coming back and forth to the land. I wasn't in the circle of these so alleged conspirators. They don't name me in any of the documents. You don't see my face in any of those pictures down there. I wasn't there. I knew about it because of my brother Ayub, may he rest in peace. We were close. Anyone that knows Christopher knows Ayub. We were like this. We lived on the land. We hung out with Baba together. We had classes. Certain things was going on the land that was just incredible, being around the father. And me and Ayub grew up similar in the same way, because he didn't know Baba was his father at the time. Neither did I. And we had a connection because we acknowledged as we got older, Baba explained certain things. Our mother explained certain things. But by then we were older and we was happy to be around our father. Right. But the thing was that he was closer to Jake because they had a relationship. I didn't have the same relationship with Jacob. And I'm only being transparent because of you. So you all will be aware of what took place, because a lot of you all 24 years, it might have been, you may be 30, you may have been 6 or 35. You may have been, 9, right? 10, 15, some of us, right? Some people who, when Baba was arrested, and you just coming into the doctrine. So this was the atmosphere of our land when our father building our nation, and you had people who grew up who had privilege to be around him, but didn't really value what we had. They didn't value having it. They didn't value the things that exist now, because at the time the world looked more alluring. You could go out and become a rapper. It was all about the Benjamins and rappers and all of this hip hop and all of this entertainment, and people were making money, was making it rain. All of that looked alluring to people who were living in the spiritual community, in a spiritual environment. Now you see where we would be 34 years building a nation, what a nation would be. Now, mind you, let me remind you of this. And I know I'm saying a lot, but I have to let it out. In 1992, do you know how many nations became independent in 1992? This is going to blow your mind. Somebody, if you can, just so I know someone is following along, type in, when did Russia become independent? Russia became independent the same year we became independent. Uzbekistan, Yugoslavia, these nations became independent the same year we became. Let me type it up so you see the type of development we would be right now if the devil hadn't come in with this stupid case. Hold on. Let me type this in. What nations became, I had it wrote down, became independent, right? People think Russia is a nation that became independent years ago. The former Soviet Republic, it declared independence in 1992, marked by their recognition into the United Nations. They became what? What did it become? Uzbekistan, Kazakhstan, Kyrgyzstan, Moldova, Tajikistan became independent in 1992. Turkmenistan became independent in 1992. Ukraine became independent in 1992. 1992 was a major period for the restructuring of Eastern Europe and Central Asia. So do you see the Nuwaupian Nation should be there on this list? Russia, December 25th, 1991. Kazakhstan, December 16th, 1991. Bosnia and Herzegovina, May 1st, 1992. Czechoslovakia, right? January 1st, 1993. Slovakia, January 1st, 1993. Eritrea, these countries, Serbia, all of these countries became independent just recently. So when a person says, right, when we say we became independent in 1992, they didn't understand Negroes in America, right? It's the mentality. I'm not speaking negative about our people, but it's the mentality that you picked up, that when you see a leader, someone that's doing something for you, because of the Adamite mentality, you have no clue. So when he comes with this case and all of this theatrics and says, oh, Dr. Melanie's like, oh man, see, cult. This is the first thing your cult member, they use a compound, right? So this is a part of that conspiratorial plot. So it was a twofold, right? The first plot was the Georgia plot, where they stole the lands. And because Dr. Malachi York came back and knew that this was our sovereign territory, the higher ups said, if we don't stop him right now, then we're going to have a problem. Because if all of blacks in America, think about this, if all of you all decided to vote, that's one thing you all never done. Think about it. Think about out of all the black leaders, everybody that you've come across, Noble Drew Ali, Honorable Elijah Muhammad, Marcus Garvey, whoever, right? Deuce Ali, you never once voted for your own president. And that's the one thing that you can do that nobody on the planet Earth can speak about. Nowhere on the planet Earth, no government, no, you don't have nothing to be afraid of. If you go, you can go vote for a racist. You can go vote for someone who wants to destroy your community. You can go vote for Ronald Reagan. You can go vote for Truman. You can go vote for Roosevelt. I don't know if you can vote way back then. They allow you to vote for their two of the lesser evils, whatever the case. Right? When you do that, then all things change. So let's get to this. Let's get back to this Georgia conspiracy. Let me tell you how deep Georgia was with this conspiracy. And let me tell you how Georgia used, Baba called it the circle of three. The father called it the circle of three. The prosecutors, the lawyers, the judges. The prosecutors. Who were the prosecutors? That was a part of Maxwell Wood. Where did he go? What school did he go to? UGA, University of Georgia in Athens in 1985. What do they teach in UGA? That Georgia committed fraud against the southeastern lands in the Yazoo Land Act, the Yazoo land fraud that was decided upon in 1810 in Fletcher and Peck case. What did they decide? That Georgia didn't have rights or title to the territory. What did the U.S. do? The U.S. brought the land from Georgia in 1803 before the decision. And when the Supreme Court said that they didn't have title to it, the U.S. never gave the land back. Who were they supposed to give the land back to? You all, the Nuwaupian Nation, the Nubians of the southeastern area, the Africans, indigenous, you were to be free then. Who knew this? His Excellency, Dr. Malachi Z. York. So he had to bring the fight to the devil. That's who he is, the warring angel. Baba is not no one's chump. He's not no soft-heeled Negro, American Negro leader that bows to the Mukasu or to his rules and none of that. That's not him, okay? He is a warring angel. He is the angel Michael or Michael in flesh. He is Melchizedek. He is the being that will come in the last days as the great prince to raise up and raise his people up to defeat the devil as the beast will fall, the new Babylon will fall, as we spoke about last episode, and he spoke about and wrote about in many publications. He is that being. And they think they have him because they made you all people who may not be as strong. I'm not saying you all had, but the devil knows how to create doubts. He knows how to play with your intelligence. He knows how to play with your intellect. He knows how to play with your emotions. Why? Because he created the system here in the Americas. He created the education system here. He knows the psychology of people. He knows what makes your brain work. He knows that all he has to do is create an image and create a story. And you will begin, as a creator, you create the image in your mind. He can give you a tooth fairy. He can give you a Santa Claus. And you will create the image in your mind and really think you see Santa Claus. You really thought you heard Santa Claus in your house when you were young because you created the image. You really think that this God is some fictitious, invisible, nothing being is helping you on this planet when it's actual people coming into your life, giving you blessings. It's you creating your destiny and controlling your fate. That's you as a creator. He knows if he can tap into that in you, then he can create your reality. He can make you think anything he wants you to think. He can turn you against your own gods. He's been doing it for 6,000 years. He turned you against your African deities. He turned you and made you worship Arabs. He turned you against your African Nathar, your overseers, and made you worship the Greek deities and images of them. He made you turn against your Abduads and Enneads, your creator deities and feminine goddesses, and made you worship the Mesopotamian Anunnaki descendants, right? And change the images. So he made you eat the wrong foods. He knows how to control your emotions by giving you an opportunity in his movies, in his commercials, in his society, and you always think you have a chance, but the carrot keeps getting further and further away. So he knows how to control your emotions because he can control the way you survive. If I can control what you eat, I can control if you starve, then I have control of your existence. And that's what the devil has in the Americas when you try to pull people out of it. When our Father says, let everything go, leave their stuff alone, come do things on your own. You're afraid because as a child, you no longer feel comforted. You feel insecure. Well, what are we going to eat? How are we going to live? How are we going to pay our bills? How are we going? This is what happens. So he controlled the media, right? And on the internet. And let me tell you something, that the reason why I'm so passionate about this is because when I was arrested in 2001, I'm going back so people that want to know, how did I know so much about the conspiracy? When I was arrested in 2001, I went to the ball in Macon, and I was arrested because I was on house arrest, right? I was going to war with the government of Georgia. They was locking me up. I was beating them in court. I was challenging jurisdiction. I beat them 4 times. I would take a traffic ticket to trial. I beat them in DeKalb County. I beat them in Fulton County twice. I beat them in Clayton County. They wasn't arresting me for nothing major. I wasn't arrested for nothing domestic. I didn't have no drugs, no guns. I have no violence on my record. So all the people that, they try to say, oh, he's this, he's that. You don't have no proof. You got arrest records. Because one thing that the father explained to us was, he said, you have to respect everyone. You respect every law except theirs. You don't have to respect their laws because their laws were not given to you to be respected. They were given to you to subjugate you and control you. So oftentimes the arrest I would have was for simply not showing up to court. And I didn't care. I wasn't interested in trying to be the best citizen in their system when I knew they were corrupt. I'm not the type to bend and fold and conform, because the opposite of courage is conformity. I'm not conforming to a system, and I know what you've done to my people. I'm just not the type. I'm a fighter. You arrested my father. You kidnapped him. You destroyed our nation. You put COINTELPRO all throughout our system, right? You placed agents involved and brought people, some unbeknownst, some unknowns, married into us, right? Then you have people like Jake, who used individuals who wanted to leave, like Ebony Hill and other individuals. You took them to South Beach. And in 2001, when I was arrested in January, I told the judge, he said, do you want to go on house arrest or do you want to do jail time? It was my decision. I'm like, listen, take me off of house arrest, because I'm not paying. You're not going to have me pay you to keep me a chain on my ankle. I'm not doing that. I told the judge that to his face. And I'm going to tell you how I was involved and what happened up into trial. This is so you know from me. So all the other narrative that people are lying and acting, trying to get views because of my name, all that stops today, because you're going to hear it from me. You can ask me anything. You can put it in the chat if you had a question. What happened was, I told the judge, I said, listen, I'm not paying house arrest fees and paying a fine you to for me have come in at 6 o'clock, and if I stay out late, I'm arrested and all. I'm not doing that. He said, so you want to go to jail or do you want to go back on house arrest? I said, give me jail time. I thought the judge was going to give me 30 days. He gave me 120 days. I was like, damn, 120. I was like, man, that 4 months, I didn't anticipate it, but I already said it. I don't even know why I said it. I just was tired of their system, and I was trying to get this over with. It wasn't nothing violent. It wasn't nothing major. It wasn't no drugs, guns, none of that. It was some paperwork. Somebody passed me something. I passed it to this person, and they charged me with passing a document. It's called utterance, forging an utterance, something like that. Anyway, it was something light, and I wasn't a convicted felon. So I didn't have a record where I would have a lot of time. Like people's like, oh, he's supposed to have been locked up 50. I'm like, you don't know what you're talking about. I don't even have a record. A criminal record. You got failure to appears when you see it. And I don't even have to explain nothing to nobody about it, because I don't respect their system, because they're not our judges. So let's move forward. When I went into the 4 months that I did, right? I'm in there. I'm doing my time, working out, whatever. And my brother, they sent my brother inside IU. And I'm like, yo, what you doing here? He was like, man, Basil, boss. He used to call me boss, man. Man, just punch me in my face. I'm like, what did you do? He's like, man, he was like, man, they got me caught up in something. I was like, man, don't worry about it. But a few days later, he confided in me. He said, man, I want to tell you something. He wanted to tell Baba before he got arrested, but he got caught up. And I'm just giving you facts. Right? So he comes in, he tells me, he says, man, I got something to tell you. I'm like, what? He was like, man, I heard that the feds and Jake is trying to bring a case against Baba. I said, what? We were in a cell. I was like, I was blown away. I was shocked at first, but I was like, what you mean? He was like, yeah, man. And he said, man, I heard Leah was involved. I'm like, Leah, our sister, Leah? He was like, yeah, man. He said, but I know for sure Jake is trying to bring a case. I'm like, what? So I'm like, I know you told Baba. This is personal. I said, I know you told Baba. He was like, man, I tried. I was like, you didn't tell him? And so I was furious. People don't, my temper is, I have a temper sometimes when it comes to my father, right? So we end up fighting. Me and my brother, we fought a lot, not a lot, a few times, but we fought in that cell. We shut the door, said, yo, man, we fought because he should have told Baba, may he rest in peace. He not here to speak his side. I'm not dirtying his name. I'm just giving you the facts. That was, he wanted to tell Baba, couldn't get to him. And that's fine, right? Because I was able to tell him. That's my brother. May he rest in peace. I love Ayub to death, right? And life. So I called. I said, all right, cool. I called Baba. I called the land while I was in jail, and his brothers that can speak on it, to speak to this fact. I hope they put it in the comments. I called him. I said, I said, listen, tell Baba that I think they're trying to bring it. I was told that Jake and the feds trying to bring a case against him. I said, let Baba know I just found out. I was locked up, so I had a few minutes on the call. Let him know. Boom. He called Baba, told Baba, I ain't gonna say the brother's name. He knows who he is. He told Baba. Baba got the message back to me. He said, yeah, I heard about it. Tell him I said, bring it on. I said, oh, Baba's no chump. That made me feel good because I'm like, good. I let him know. My conscience is good because there's no way I'm not going to let Baba know this. Now, meanwhile, I got this is 2002. I said 2001. I meant 2002, right? This was a year after the South Beach trip. After the South Beach trip happened in May, I think. I don't even know when is spring break. I've never been to a spring break. I don't even like them crowded, sweaty places, bunch of people, freaky people going. I never been there, but I think it's in May, June. Y'all tell me, y'all know when it, one of those days, whatever, March, April, May, whatever month, right? So when I call, I'm like, man, I'm ready to go to war. I'm pissed off, but I wrote him too. I wrote Bob. I'm like, Baba, this is what I heard. Be on the lookout for such and such. I don't know what they planning. I didn't know anything about what they was planning. I just heard a case. They didn't say anything specific, but I'm like, what Jake got to do with it? Then I found out later that the South Beach trip. Now I found out when I was in jail as I'm going, as the cards is unfolding. I'm probing now, like what's going on? So they went on the South Beach trip. And I'm like, oh, the South Beach trip. But I didn't know that they conspired on the South Beach trip. I didn't know what was taking place in the car. I just put two and two together because I knew about the South Beach trip and I knew some of the Mukmanoon or Mukmanati, Alad, right? The young teenagers, young adults, they was adults going down there, right? With Jake, right? But Ayub had told me about it. Yeah, they supposed to be going down. I'm like, man, I told him I don't rock with him like that. I don't really like this guy. We was about to fight several times, because that's just me. Like if it's an issue, we handle it, get it off our chest, move on. Old school. That's just me because I like to fight. I'm a fighter. That's just in my blood. I got it from my father. That's what he do. He's a fighter. He's a warrior. So that's what we do, right? So anyway, I didn't go. So I'm like, and I heard about it. I'm like, oh, they went to the South Beach trip. Boom. Okay. So I knew Jake was involved. I knew other people was involved, but I didn't know exactly who the conspirators were. I knew Jake was the head. That's what I did know. And I knew he didn't like Baba because of his mother. And I knew he didn't like him because he wouldn't give him the $1 million. All of that was coming all together in the 4 months. I got out April 27th. And April 27th, right, was May 2002, April 27th, about 12 days, 2 weeks before May 8th. So my apartment, I had to come back to Decatur. When I got out, they let me out, Union City. I came back to my apartment. I had some brothers staying there. They just was enjoying whatever. The rent had to be paid up. I ain't slandering my brothers. I love my brothers. They know what was going on. It was 24 whatever years ago. That's water under the bridge. But I'm telling you, I had to come out, get the rent together, do all those things, make sure things was right. Had to get back to work because I had a barbershop, get back to work. So it took me exactly about 2 weeks. So on May 8th, when I wanted to go to see Baba to talk to him about what was taking place, I had a lot of customers. This was a Saturday, if I'm not mistaken, a Saturday or Friday. Look at when was May 8th. Bob was arrested maybe. It was a lot of customers in there. And I was like, yo, hold on, wait for me. My brother, close brother of mine. I was like, wait for me, I'm coming. He was like, yo, I gotta go. Baba just called. I gotta come to the land to do this. I said, wait, just give me 15, 20 minutes because I wanted to go. I didn't have a ride. I had a car at the time. I just got out and I was anticipating speaking to Baba. And then he had left me. And I was just a little hurt. I was like, well, I'll try to catch it next time. And then that's when the May 8th hit. It was all on the news. And I was just in shock because of everything that it all was coming to me. The whole Jacob conspiracy, the plot, what Ayub had told me, what I had told Baba, him telling them to bring it on. I was trying to figure out how much he knew, what was it about? And all of these things started coming out. Then when I started learning about the indictment and what happened and the people who was involved, I knew Jacob was involved, but nobody said anything. The people who was involved before the arrest, that was involved with the prosecutorial misconduct that we have of all these individuals saying the feds had told me I was going to be arrested. I was told if I was important to the case. This is a sister named Radia, right? I was told that I was important to the case against Malachi because Habiba Washington had told the FBI about me. I was asked questions about Malachi York and my involvement with Nuwaupians, right? And then I was told by an agent, this is part 6. This is an affidavit from Radia, right? This is a part of the prosecutorial misconduct filing that we had filed a little later after we found out that they was coming to all of these alleged victims. Some of the alleged victims testified on their behalf, but some of them was like, I ain't testifying against with these lies. This was one of the sisters named Radia. She said, I was told by an agent that they knew what happened and what happened to me. They lied. He said they tried. I can't read that word. Oh, they lied to me and told me that Malachi York was already arrested and my statements would not make a difference. And it says, and I was scared, so I went along with the stories. I personally feel that the statements attributed to me in the FBI interview on March 25th, 2002 are not my words. There are many, many inaccuracies. My relationship with Dr. Malachi York was a father-stepdaughter relationship. They told me that my mother meant that others mentioned my name as being M. Right? The FBI gave me details of what was allegedly said. I told everyone that I told them that I had no knowledge of this. And then she says in 9, I felt pressure and coerced into cooperating with the FBI. I figured that if I didn't cooperate, then I would be going to jail. That's prosecutorial misconduct. This one, Ebony's prosecutorial misconduct. David Noel, who also was on the trip, all a part of the family, his affidavit was signed by the same lawyer. His affidavit was drafted by the same lawyer as Ebony Hills and Tarek Noel. The reason why I know I had a relationship with these individuals is because I lived on the land and I knew them. And so they were coming to me because I didn't shun them away. I didn't tell them, listen, we hate you for doing this. I understood that they was being coerced. I knew they were being tricked. I knew that someone had got to them and offered them money. I knew they were against the wall. I knew their backs was against the wall because they didn't know how the feds played. We were raised in the community. They had no idea how the FBI coerced people, the resources and the arm they had to try to get a case and bury somebody and try to bury somebody as important as our father, as our president. They didn't know what they were up against. So a lot of the pressure being locked in a room, 5 FBI agents telling you, you need to do this, you need to say this, just sign here, and we're gonna make sure you straight, promising them money, promising them book deals, Jacob promising them money, promising them book deals, promising them a better life, promising them you come to Atlanta, you'll be a superstar. We're all going to get rich because we're going to get movie deals. That's what they chasing now with these fake behind documentaries, these low-class Hulu, whatever documentaries with these lies and fabricated stories. Already knew that they were against the wall. So my strategy was this. If you want to right the wrong, if you want to do the right thing, then I'll look out for you. I'm not going to expose you. I already know. This is how I'm talking to David. This is the guy, David, who had testified, right? And he was coerced, as he said. This was an affidavit written on July 12th, 2007, drafted by Derek Williams, the attorney in Atlanta, and it was signed by Emmanuel. Who's this? I can't read this, the notary, but it says, I'm affirming, right? This is the guy people see with the glasses, and he's talking, right? He said, I deny watch any pornography. I deny being involved with any sexual activity or witnessing any appropriate activity. I deny having or witnessing any sexual intercourse. I testify falsely against Malachi York, Kathy Johnson, Sandra Lampkin, and Khadijah Merritt for several reasons. The main reason was the threats made against me by FBI agents. Prosecutorial misconduct. They used his testimony, and it was prosecutorial misconduct. Another prosecutorial misconduct. These are the people that the feds tried to coerce into testifying for them. Some did, some didn't. It still doesn't mean they didn't misconduct themselves. Hanan Merritt, she acknowledged that she was being questioned by the FBI and being intimidated on part 6. I being intimidated, scared, and threatened, but was interrogated by federal agents, being told by them that they know I was M. Although I denied the allegations, they continued to badger me. They repeatedly told me I was M and covering up for Mr. York, allegedly that he claimed that he was going to kill me, etc. And she goes on to say, no, I'm writing this to say I was badgered, threatened, and coerced by federal agents in an attempt to make statements against Dr. York that were not true. Prosecutorial misconduct. I have a list, goes on and on. I can read on and on, affidavits after affidavits. My point is this, that these individuals that went down on the South Beach trip, they intended to have all types of orgies, that's what they do on South Beach. Now the STD rate is high because it's like everybody, you hop from one to the next, you go from one room to the next, you go from boy to boy, girl to girl, whatever. This is what they practice. This is what's under Jake. This is his mentality, right? And they know him in the music industry. This is what he does. And he influenced these people because of his sick vendetta. And he told them on the way back, as Habiba Washington said, that she was with Jacob York. She had a conversation with him in part 2. Jacob told me that I should go to the FBI with a story. This is exactly what Seals confirmed. Look at the Seals story. Seals says, let me tell you this about these devils. I'm going to tell you how they're not going to get away. They're not going to get away with on my watch. I'm not keeping quiet about it because they know the facts. You all know the facts. The Georgia government knows the facts. The United States government knows the facts that you've been doing all of these things to people for 6,000 years, 400 years in America, and you did it for 24 years against us, and it's going to stop today. All of what you're doing, your lies, your coercion, your force, this is what they did, right, with Jacob York. So she mentions that she talked to Jacob York Jacob York told her to go with FBI. If you look at the video where Sheriff Seals is saying, well, this is what I need you to question. Let me tell you, this is what I need you to question. How come Sheriff Seals didn't say, well, we had medical evidence of these acts. We had someone come to the hospital and go to the hospital, and it was unusual visible scars. It was unusual injuries, which they have to do whenever a child has any type of medical injuries of that nature, as they try to paint and put on him, which was lies. You would have a sheriff, especially those racist sheriff down in Putnam County, wherever they are, down in Edenton, all throughout that land. If any person would have come with any suspicion, any underage, it could be an adult. If they said, This is what happened to me. My child. Why no child, no medical records from any place in the surrounding towns or the medical facilities or institution, from a clinic, pediatrics, none of them has any person or report that says someone came in anonymously with an injury lived closely related to the Nuwaupians. Why did Sills say, well, Jacob York came to me? This was the start of the indictment. This was the start of the investigation. It was no person from the land, our territory. It was no alleged victim. There was no concerned mother. There was no concerned father. It was Sheriff Sills said Jacob York came to him and said he had some stories. He had some stories. And he said, really? Sheriff Sills was like, you got stories of what? He said, I got some stories about Dr. York, my so-called father, and these alleged victims, blah, blah, blah. And he said, yeah, well, let me hear it. He said, well, yeah, they down in the car right now. You know how they were down in the car coming from South Beach. He took them right to Sills. So all of this mounting evidence, medical evidence, DNA, pictures, photographs, video, blah, 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 blah. None of that existed. It was from Jacob York. Look at that Sills interview, and the first thing he would tell you is that Jacob came to him and said, I got some stories. Now, what happens is this. After I found out about the case, I bring the whole conspiracy out. I get targeted. I'm telling people, listen, it's a conspiracy against Dr. York. For 2 years, no one speaks about the conspiracy. I'm yelling in the wilderness, listen, they conspired against Bobbers, Jacob York and these. Look at the so-called alleged victims. What did they do? They went to South Beach. They conspired. I'm going to video. I'm on CNN. I'm on audio. I'm on YouTube, way of YouTube back when it first started. I'm giving testimony. I'm going on different radio stations, cable network stations. I'm telling the same story that I'm telling now, that they was involved. And because this was when the internet first was out, the conspiracy started being plastered on the internet. So what they see initially, before the conspiracy comes out, Baba didn't know about the conspiracy because he was kept from everybody from his arrest to the next year, 2003. You see in 2003, then they bring him into court, right? Unshaven, beat up, under duress, temperature, torture, the heat high one night, cold the next night, rats, roaches, killers, murderers, everybody around him, face on TV, giving these charges, 300 charges, blah, blah, blah. They doing all of this for someone to hurt him in prison. That's why I said, oh, they trying to get him killed. They know that those charges, what happens in prison. So what happens is, Baba's telling us this. He didn't tell us this till later, after a whole year where someone had hired the attorney, Ed Garland, who was another graduate of UGA. Judge Royal is a graduate of UGA, his trial lawyer. Spivey, UGA. Adrian Patrick, UGA. Who else? Hugh Lawson, the one that denied his plea because Dr. York said he was under duress. A lot of people say, well, why did he take a plea? If he took a plea, we wouldn't go to trial. The whole point was, if you take a plea to avoid trial, why are you saying he took a plea and we went to trial? The plea was because he was under duress. And if you look at him, that's why I said, if you look at the video, look at the circumstances, he's lethargic. They woke him up 2 o'clock in the morning. This is what he told us. Shackled him, no medicine. They knew he had angioedema. They was giving him sleep deprivation, turning the lights on in the middle of the night, not giving him access to mail, not giving him access to a phone, not giving him access to his attorneys. His attorneys never came to the prison. The first time they seen him, Manny Aurora brings him out, tell him he going in front of a judge to take a plea. He doesn't know what's going on. He hasn't read the indictment completely. They haven't told him anything about what the case was about, what the charges was, what was his options. They didn't tell him any of those things. Why? Because they went to UGA. UGA was already aware that Georgia had to suppress any black leader that came out of the South because they knew that they didn't own the land. And if they found out that the land would have to go back to the Nubians, that's why Dr. Martin Luther King was killed. He wasn't killed because he was doing those civil rights. They gave him the civil rights. He was killed because he went to Ghana and found out how you could become a nation. He came back talking about what it was to be a nation when he was arrested in Alabama, right? And he wrote a letter about seeing a mountaintop. He said, as before the signing of the Declaration of Independence, we were here. That's what he said. And we were that small nation because he became aware that it was the vote of the president that freed the people. That's why they killed him. Because if he would have got out and started reaching and connecting with the Honorable Elijah Muhammad, who was building a nation, and Dr. Martin Luther King, who was already became aware of the political aspect of voting, not voting for their system, but creating your own. Look at the speech with Dr. Martin Luther King when he went to Ghana and he witnessed the Ghanaians freeing their own president from a vote when their president was in jail. They call it the jailbird victory. In 1951, Kwame Nkrumah walked out of prison because his people voted for him. They did it on their own. They didn't ask the British. They didn't petition Donald Trump. They didn't go to this place and say, oh, please help us. Please, we want to file a habeas corpus to free a citizen. No, that's not how they did it. And that's not how we're going to do it because we have the blueprint. We are a nation and we're going to behave as such, whether you want to participate or not. We don't need your vote. It's not like we begging someone. People are like, I don't know about. Don't vote then. Go sit your crusty butt down and go wait for the next election with Donald Trump or whoever else is next, or whoever else is in the next candidate to run for America. Sit over there and do it. But you're not going to come here and mess up what we're doing for our president. All right. So they were aware of everything that they already knew because in UGA, this is what they teach. Let me explain that. When you go to law school, you don't go to law school as a judge. You don't go to law school as a prosecutor. You don't go as a lawyer. You go to learn the law. You don't know what side of the bench you might end up on. 1 year, you might be a criminal defense. The next year, you might be a prosecutor. 10 years, you might elevate to a judge. But you still know the law and you understand whatever you were taught in law school. And in the Georgia Law School, they teach in the Russell Building. When down 10 floors, they have archives of all of the layout of Georgia and how it was set up and how they enslaved the blacks and how they had to implement the black codes. And all the receipts was there. And I got some of these receipts. The American State Papers are from there, and some of them are from the National Archives. That's how I found out who the land went to, because I found out exactly, I had to find out where the jurisdiction lies because our president mentioned that in court. He said, you don't have jurisdiction. That's what we keyed on. Who created jurisdiction and how? And Georgia University, all of the judges, Judge Spivey, Judge Hugh Lawson, Judge C. Ashley Warrior, the one that sentenced them, Judge, who else was the judge? The prosecutors was Dean Daskell, Maxwell Woods, all of them, Adrian Patrick, all of them went to UGA. Adrian Patrick graduated from UGA. Benjamin Davis was a UGA graduate. Maxwell Woods, all of them was some way went to this circuit of schools that keeps the secrets of Georgia hidden. And they knew it's in the books that if a nation sprouts up in this area, that's why they was watching so many of the black activists so much. That's why they were killing so many of the black movements so much. That's why they was targeting the Black Panthers. They was targeting the civil rights movement. They were targeting these organizations because they were looking for the one that knew the key to your freedom. And it was decolonizing. They have to go home. Your vote says that. You don't know how powerful you are. That's why I put it up in the community, right? I put it up in the community post so you can look at your website and you can see your voting rights. But let me get back to what happened. So this whole time, I'm getting the conspiracy out. So it's on the internet. I moved back to the land. The father says, you know what? Come back to the land. He wanted me to come back on the land. And when everyone was moving off, this time it was chaos. The feds had came in, 300 agents jumping out of the sky, helicopters, body bags, guns to the babies' heads, on hot rocks. They was eating the food, running through the different temples, arresting the brothers, locked one of the brothers up. All types of stuff. They knew certain people by name, certain agents. They were acting like they was being arrested, but really gave them the layout of the land. You had people who were infiltrated, COINTELPRO, that was with Baba 20 years, 15 years. Now they're gone. They disappeared. You had people that were slandering and saying, oh, watch out for this person, watch out for that person. They're gone, causing division, causing discord, causing confusion. They're gone. You don't hear nobody speaking no more. Why? Because I waited for everybody to run their mouth with the lies and to present the facts. Now the facts are out. And in 2004, when it was time to go to court while I was on the land, right? When I moved back on the land, I was there from in 93. I was there in 95, 96, 97, 98. I went off, came back in 99. I was arrested in 2000, came back. I came back in 2002, right? When I came back in 2002, right? This what happened. 2002, on the land, we were preparing for the case. So we go to Brunswick. Adrian Patrick comes on the case. I'm telling everybody, this is what happened to conspiracy. So some people come up with their own versions of the conspiracy. I'm like, oh, you know about it. Okay. Thanks for coming forward. Oh, you were aware about it. Okay. So now people have the courage to come forth with the conspiracy. Habiba writes her affidavit. I'm like, okay, this is good. Now people are coming forth with the conspiracy. That's good. So 2 years, I'm waiting to vindicate the father. I'm ready to testify. I'm ready to come in and say, let me tell you what happened. I'm ready to talk to the jurors. I'm ready to talk to the judge and let them know you're missing somebody. You got to bring in these co-conspirators. You got to bring in this family of alleged victims that you say was involved, but you really see they tied in with Jacob York and this South Beach, Florida trip, right? So I'm ready. I'm like ready to be the star witness for the father, for his excellency, ready to come in and say, look, this is where the jurors find out it's over with. Y'all gonna find out why. Because the thing is that they didn't know why people were lying. They knew people were lying. They saw the alleged victims lying on the stand, stuttering, changing their stories. They're getting cross-examined, misinforming people. None of these are children, but they keep putting this children thing. All of these was adults, right? None of them was underage that they tried to claim. So when they're talking, they stepping over their tongue. Some of them are saying, I didn't say that. Some of them are saying, well, I thought I said this. And they were just, some people's lying. Some people's like, look, you brought me on here and I already told you nothing happened to me. So I'm prepared. I'm ready to go into court to have my day, to let it all out. Everything I'm saying, I know Jacob York said this is what he was going to do. He conspired this person, this person, this person. I walk into the courtroom and the jurors are not in the box. I walk in and I'm looking for the jurors. I see the setup. The judge is on the bench. Baba's over here on the left. And I didn't even want to look at Baba in the clothes he had on. I just was like, I was just pissed off at everybody. This is before I knew about the fraud. I didn't know about this fraud until later. I didn't know about the land fraud and all of this. I didn't know that Georgia had stolen all of the lands and sold it to the U.S. I didn't know that. You see what I'm saying? So I was just knew about the conspiracy. That's why I said the hidden conspiracy. This was the hidden part because it was bigger. They were trying to take Baba out because of the land that we had and the territory that we was going to claim to be the most powerful black nation in the West. Egypt of the West. Obelisk and 30,000, 40,000 people coming to see this great deity building a black nation for the first time on our land. Nobody has done that before. So I felt like, you know, this was my time to show my father, look, I got your back. I'm not letting them get away. And they sent the jurors out of the box. And that was like, that part is still to this day, it just burns me up because I felt like I need to get revenge on those devils for doing that. because I know for a fact, had they heard the motive, they didn't know the motive. They was trying to figure out why. Who would put people up to lie? We know they're lying. Just like if you say a person murdered someone. Okay, but why did they murder this person? Because it doesn't add up. There's no evidence. We know it's hearsay. We hear a bunch of stories. There's no physical evidence. There's no DNA. There's no medical experts. This is in trial. No physical evidence, no medical evidence, no DNA, no medical experts to come in and say this is what happens. No psychological experts, psychology experts to come say, listen, when an alleged victim, blah, 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 this is what happens. This is their behavior. Or when these types of events takes place, this is the medical evidence that coincides. They have that. They have a criteria of forensic science that deals directly with how you deal with these types of cases. And none of that was in court. So the jurors was like, in their minds, watching it, I'm like, they don't know why these people are lying. Because you can hear a person lying, but the next thing would be, what you lying for? At first, you're like, why you gotta lie? What you lying for? They was like, I lied because I was afraid, And then you say, oh, okay, I understand. Because you say, okay, I get why you probably lied, and it settles you. But for a person just to lie, and you like, what are you doing that for? That's what they were trying to figure out. Why are these people doing this? If you were to establish that they came from a certain handful of people that went on a specific trip to conspire against Dr. York, and this person was granted immunity. These people were granted immunity for things that they thought they had did or claimed to have done or whatever the case. And so I was going to establish this motive. And this is why, and it hurt. I was pissed because I was the only one blocked out of everybody that was to testify, that testified on Dr. York's behalf, the father's behalf. I'm like, why would you block my testimony? Because the reason why is because Baba said they would have to subpoena Jacob York. They would have to subpoena everyone involved with the South Beach trip. And I argued with the judge. He's seen it in my face. He was like, well, we don't know if what you're saying has to do. I said, you mean, this is what I'm telling Judge Royal. Yes. Don't tell me you was a part of conspiracy. You don't know what you're talking about. All them people that was on YouTube, I let y'all talk for years and use my name and bring my name in the mud and do all of that because we're fighting bigger devils. You just some small devil involved with trying to be important and get your little YouTube channel and act like you know what you're talking about and act like you supported Dr. York from the beginning and you know who's involved, you know who's in aid. You don't know what you're talking about. That's why you're not around no more. Nobody's paying attention to you because you telling so much lies and negativity. You can't even draw people in with the facts. All you got to do is teach the facts. You don't have to slander and try to hurt or bring down people or defame people to make yourself look important. So they don't know what they're talking about. I was hurt and crushed, and I argued with the judge. And then the Moultrie, he's gonna say, "Aren't you?" He threw an alias out there. Asked me, "Aren't you such and such?" I said, "Yeah, that's an alias." He was like, "Aren't you a convicted felon?" I said, "Well, yeah, that's what y'all say. You say I'm a convicted felon. What does that have to do with anything? Right? I said, what does that have to do? Does that make me incredible? Right? No, I didn't say that, but I'm thinking I know his angle. You know what I'm saying? I said, that's why I know who Jacob York is, because if you say I'm a felon, he's a felon. Don't you say felons hang out? Don't they know each other? I said, yeah, I know him. I know he's involved with the conspiracy. I know he was involved. He got immunity from you all to bring down Dr. York. And this is what I need to testify and tell the jurors. So you need to come bring them in the box. And the judge was like, no, we don't need to. I'm like, why can't I tell these people, the court, what exactly happened and how they tried to frame Dr. York? And then after me going back and forth, they know I was not to be played with. When it came to Baba, I was told I had, I was done. But that hurt me. So from then on, it's been on. I've been trying to find out what gave Georgia the authority, and that's what we found out. So now we still on nation building time. That's where we at. And where we are is that we're not asking nobody for nothing no more. We tired of asking. We don't have to ask you for our freedom. We don't have to ask you to let our president go. You're not authorized to have them. You don't have the authority to have them. The devil's time is up. It's been up since 1999, and there's nothing else you can tell us about us and tell us who we are. No one's falling for that again. So that double conspiracy or the hidden conspiracy is something that you all need to be aware of, because it's very, very serious. This is people's lives. This is your lives. This is your life. This is your children's future. This is not something that you can let go by like for the next generation, because they're not going to have anything. When Babylon falls, what nation are they going to be a part of? Right? You say, okay, you want things of your own. You got the biggest economy. You already have the most educated people. You already have the entertainment industry. You're already controlling the music. You're already controlling sports. You're already controlling comedy. You're already controlling every industry, right? You've built every industry. Build your own. Why do you always feel like you have to be up under somebody and get permission from somebody? Feeling all insecure about making a decision on who you want to lead you. What is the problem? And that's what I'm fighting for so hard with this vote. That's why I'm saying it ties in with the vote, because in the back of the Constitution, people are like, we don't know about the vote. I'm saying, look in the back of the Constitution. It literally says, I'm voting for Dr. Malachi York, and you can vote anytime. You can vote every 4 years if you decide. No one outside group, no one sends you a paper. It's, okay, you can go vote. What's your name? Okay, I give you permission to vote. It's not about that. No nation does that. A free people with the principles of self-determination have the ability to say, you know what, we're tired. We don't have to explain to you why we're tired. You already know what you've done. Period. Who can tell you something different? And the moment you do that, our Father will be free. The moment you do that, and the vote is going to happen. I'm still building a site for those that seen the pre-launch. It has your voting rights up there, right? Somebody told me to lower my voice. I was a little loud. I got passionate. I hope I wasn't yelling in your ears. But yeah, I appreciate you all tuning in. So the moment you're able, you don't really know. I'm trying to explain this. Okay, thank you. I'm trying to explain to you. This is what I'm trying to get you all to understand. That the power is with you all. If you want this beast to fall, you have to do it. All you have to do is say, we're not under you anymore. That's it. You think you have to explain to them? You don't have to explain to them. The only reason they accept you being under them is because the moment they say, bring your ass over here, you like, oh, okay. Put your hands behind your back. Oh, okay. Come to my court. Oh, okay. Pay my bill. Okay. Pay the taxes. Okay. That's the only reason. If you say, come into this court, you say, why? Show me where authority you have. You're a person, I'm a person. Show me where you have authority to bring me into this place, this room, that you can judge me and sentence my life away. Show me. I need to see that. Where? What can they show you? A constitution? Oh, we the people that's visiting your land. We have authority and power from King George. So let me speak to this King guy, George guy. I need to know who he is, because you're about to try to sentence me to life. You see what I'm saying? You try to sentence me to prison. I need to know who this person is. They can't do that. So I'm just saying this to say to people that having doubts and questions, everything is in our favor. Everything that it takes for freedom. That's why it's called the now or never. So anybody that wants to email, I'm taking questions now. I've been talking, right? The problem is that sovereignty and freedom is not for everyone. It's not a problem. There you're introducing a problem. What do you mean it's not a problem? It is for everyone. Don't introduce problems. There's no problems. See, that's another thing. You have to get out of that. The problem is we don't have no problems. The problem is not having our own. It is for everyone. Everyone on the planet has under a free sovereignty except you. You're the only ones that's being controlled by foreigners. And you believe that. I'm not attacking you, sir, whatever your name is, but I'm saying that if you say the problem is that sovereignty and freedom is not for everyone because it comes with responsibilities, Yeah, well, we have to be the responsible ones. The people who are in the government positions, the people that are aware. You have to take the responsibility, right, for others. Let's take the responsibility for them. I'm taking responsibility. I'm doing what I have to do to educate the nation the way the Father expressed that he wants done, with the actual facts and us and our freedom and his freedom. So I'm taking the responsibility off of those that don't know. Those that are aware, the signal is buffering. Is it still buffering? Yeah, so don't, there's no problem. We don't have problems, all right? So we have the power to do, okay. All right, so you have to be, well, I mean, I know many are not, but let's not do it. Okay, I get what you're saying. I get what you're saying. Many are not. I know. Trust me. I hear it. I know a lot of people are not. That doesn't mean we can't stop moving. A lot of people won't be. They may get it next month. They may look at this, not get it today, but in 6 months, this video is up and they like, wow. When the system is falling down and the war is taking place and the debt then collapsed and the banks then came and collected on their debt from the U.S., the 32 trillion, and they trying to collect people to collect their debt, and you say, oh, I'm a Nuwaupian, I'm not a part of the system, then they'll see. When we set it up to where the Father's home and he says, all my people come with me, right? And it collapsed and you're not in that because you paid attention, then they'll see. But right now we're building this foundation and we're making sure that we resurrect our nation again, because a lot of discord and division has crept in and it's just not something that we're into. So anyone that has any confusion, tell them, just email me. It's very simple. It's not hard. It's nothing we're doing that's outside of basic normal activity, what nations do. I know you've never seen your own nation operate this way. And that's why some people like, wow, a vote? It's, yeah, a vote. What's wrong with that? You've been voting. Our people sometimes they go crazy for no reason. I still love y'all though, but some of our people just, it's difficult, but it's good. The email, oh yeah, I always say I was gonna put the email. Somebody put the email, let me put it in. So I hope I'm clear, right? Am I clear with the conspiracy? Anything, any questions? Let me open the floor to questions. Nubian. When I get on here though, I don't like getting off because I like talking to y'all. I like talking to y'all so much, right? I enjoy having these builds and you all listening in the minds and seeing how people respond, right? So if you got any questions, okay, let me pin this. I always forget to do that. I suppose I add my moderator, Divine Alignment, so she can help me with this. I'll make sure I put her in. I was been so busy trying to prepare for this. So that's the Rahubat, everyone. I didn't even greet everyone. Thank you all for tuning in. I hope you all subscribe and get into those comments. And let me know in the comments, like come back, let me know what it is you think we should be discussing. Oh, the launch, we're going to go for May 9th. May 9th, we're going to have a full launch. Right now, this is the website. It's the UnitedNuwaupianNation.com. I'll put it in the description box. Is this being settled international court? Well, there's a mechanism. That's a good question. We negotiate first. It's a process. What we have to do once the vote is in, there's a referendum that's drafted. Let me tell y'all about that. Once the vote is in, there's a referendum that's drafted that remodifies the land, meaning that the colonial land it will be remodeled. It will be modified by us. The status of the land will be known as Nuwaupian territory. So that's the first step. But this is after you vote. This is how when it says Europe collapsed and the USSR collapsed, right? All those nations, when they voted for their own president, what did they do? They modified the land. So all of the lands became demarcated for that particular nation. Meaning when the USSR fell, Russia had Russia, Yugoslavia, Uzbekistan, exactly. So once Babylon is fallen, you as a nation, the land will be in the southeastern area. You must have just came in, official. I went over that. Where the land is, the southeastern area, right? Yeah, you can check out the website too. Yeah, but you have to probably check the video official, so you can find out where the land is. It's in the southeastern area. What are you talking about? See the height. I'll be on the website. Yeah, come to the website May 9th. But right now you can still check out your let me type it in real quick. Let me see something. 1 second. I want to give you all the site. I'll put the link in the chat, in the description box as well. This is the link. Check it out real quick. Copy that and go look at the go look at your rights there. That gives more information from an international perspective, so you can see the legal rights that you have and how they're protected, how you are protected if you want to be a part of the voting. The timeline of the vote. Okay, so we're going to vote from May 9th until, we're going to vote until it's going to be a continuous vote, because not everyone will be aware of the time. So as more people vote, as the campaign, that's why any campaign managers, right, all of that will be in place. All institutions, military, police force, you have those things in place. We had that structure, and we're just reorganizing, right? I have seen a document where they ordered the release. You know anything about? Yeah, that was my work. I got that. I have the original. But that someone sabotaged that. That's a question I'm reading online. It says, I seen a document where they ordered the release. You know anything about that? Yes. That was for I was working together with a feminine empress up there in North Carolina. But again, they started slandering and going crazy and talking negative lies. And I don't know why people do that. They feel like they get a little work, they get information, and they feel like, okay, let me go slander. That's the spell that our people are under. They typically want to go slander. So the moment you get some information or get a little shine, you go slander a person and make yourself look better or look good. That's just a part of the system and the Adamites' abuse that has psychologically affected Nubians. Where the moment you get in position, it's like, let me stab them in the back. And then they stab you in the back to make themselves feel like a superhero or something. I don't know what it is. I've never had an issue with the woman there, Sharon. Never. I never even spoke. You've never heard me slander anyone on any of these my YouTube podcasts or my channel. You've never heard me speak negative about anybody, even though I know people was just dragging my name in the mud. But I know the sickness mentally. So I wasn't moved by that. I could have easily came back and felt defensive. People were saying I had charges on me. I was locked up. I was doing all this horrendous activities, all these things against, like, it was the most sickest mental. I'm like, y'all Negroes are really crazy to be sitting around thinking about something that you've never even witnessed. You have to have a real problem to imagine something so horrendous and repeat it, and you never seen or have any evidence of it. That's how you can't argue with a person like that, because it's something in them it's a poison in them, and we are the cure. So I can't go out spewing poison against people that I don't even know. Like, I can't even respond to individuals about things because I'm like, I don't even know you. I don't even know anything negative or positive to say because I don't know you. So I can't speak on people. That's why I don't draw people. I don't draw people to the Father that way. That we were taught by love to uplift and instill information, factual information that cleanses the mind. Reasoning, Nuwaupu cleanses the mind because it allows you to think reasonably, and gives you an understanding where you can see things from a different level. Yeah, so I don't do that. So yeah, I did give this sister Sharon up there. She called herself Empress. Are y'all familiar with her? And I allow her to get her land back. I got her land and a allodial title from for the Cherokee Nation as a Black feminine, right? You don't know her. Some people know her. Her and this other guy, I'm not gonna say his name. They would slander me, trying to get me to come on I already knew it was a lure. I said, y'all want me to come on your channel so you can get views and have some content because y'all running out of stuff to say. But I'm going to wait till you run out of stuff to say, and then I'm going to drop the real information that the Father has given us. And we still got so much more. It's like we still got about 30, 40, 50 lectures. We still have so much to talk about and so many books to cover. But I wanted to cover that aspect of the conspiracy so you'll be clear that the case had nothing to do. And I don't argue 8, 9, 10 hours in some of these clubhouse rooms defending the Father with factual information. Most of the time I'm defensive, so I don't really know, right? When you're speaking, like just normally, I'm normally defending. So having this conversation is good because I'm able to tell the facts and what it is, right? Okay, cool. Yeah, we don't have to, because that's the my thing. I wish everyone the best, but yeah, so that's where we are. So, but yeah, all of this information is going to be on the website. It's drafted up already, everything. And then I have a good editor, so we're going to have the clips of this information, right? All of these, especially this right here, this receipt. This receipt is, if you've seen a list of claimants, the claimants on this receipt they was claiming against Georgia, these companies, that they defrauded them out of the money. William Payne, George Blank, there's some presidents on here, some governors on here, people from all over Europe, Joseph Stewall, right? The heirs of Margaret Newman, Walter Sims, John Ogort, James Perkins, right? This is just a list. It goes on. And then the amount of certificate issued, 4,275,000. Treasury Department, right? November 18, 1818. That's like quadruple sixes, right? 1818, November 18th, 1818. Joseph North Register. So what they did do, they paid the claimants after the Supreme Court said, Georgia, you don't own this land. So they have something called estoppel. And the Father knew that they didn't own it. So when we claimed it as our nation's land, and we still claim it, we have allodial title. The Father has allodial title to that territory. Georgia is running. I went to the Georgia Capitol myself and served the governor and told him these 6 treaties are being vitiated. Look up the word vitiate. V-I-T-I-A-T-E-D. No, pardon me. V-I-T-I-A-T-E-D. Vitiated. And it means they've declared null and void because they were procured by force, coercion. The Treaty of Fort Jackson was like 23 million acres of land. Jackson, Mississippi, all over most of Alabama was done by force from General Andrew Jackson when he warred against our nation, right? They warred against our nation. And when he warred against our nation, he wrote the treaty up himself. He wrote it out and said, you are to do this. You are to deliver over your ministers, the military age, all of this. And the treaty is not even written in both languages. That's how I could free the Native Americans. I was supposed to help them, but they so knuckleheaded, they think they know the way. And I'm like, you don't know the way. You still on a reservation. A reservation is just to reserve. You don't own the restaurant if you have a reservation there. The reservation is just for an hour for you to eat and get your butt up. So if you're on a reservation of an Indian territory, you don't own it. You don't own it. You just there as a guest until they decide to get rid of you. That's why the Father had said, no, we're not a reservation. And I already was aware of the direct when he talked about it, because I went to the Native American territories out there in Oklahoma, and it's this feminine there. I'm not going to mention her name. And I went to those tribes and helped them get their land back. Look at the Muskogee case and the claims, the Muskogee Nation out in Oklahoma, and you'll see that they won their land a few years ago. I helped them do that. They may not go tell you, but I went to the legal department, to the Choctaw. Some people that know that was on Facebook a while ago. I went to the Choctaw there, went to the Seminole, I went to the Chickasaw. I was telling them how the Indian Removal Act was an illegal act. All you have to do is challenge its constitutionality because it violates the law of nations. You can't force a people off of their indigenous territory because there's a violation of the law of nations. If you commit a felony against the law of nations in the Constitution, if you violate the law of nations, it's a felony. So you can't write a constitutional article that says you can force people off of nations' territory. That's a violation of the law of nations. If you challenge the constitutionality of the Indian Removal Act, then if they overturn it, then everyone that was forced off of their land have access back to the territory and they're back on their land again. But they didn't want to listen to Chief Black Eagle when he was trying to help the Native Americans at the time. Everyone was trying to go ahead and run ahead of him and leave Black Eagle there when he's the one that incarnated to free the Red Eagle from the White Eagle. That's in a Crow Nation's prophecy from the Crow Nation up in North Dakota. Look up the Crow Nation. The Crow Nation accidentally gave Obama that title to say, oh, you're Black Eagle. Look up Black Eagle and Obama, and it will tell you they said he was to help the people. That he's not Black Eagle. It was Dr. Malachi Z. York. No, I stopped helping them. The question is what? Yes, look up Chief Black Eagle. Type in Obama named Chief Black Eagle, and he was named Black Eagle because they thought he was the one to help the people. It was really Dr. Malachi Z. York. And look up the prophecy of the Crow Nation. The prophecy is they said that there's a Black Eagle that will come free the Red Eagle from the White Eagle's waters. The White Eagle's waters is the jurisdiction of the White Eagle. It says the Red Eagle is trapped in the waters of the White Eagle, and Black Eagle will have to free the Red Eagle from the waters, and Black Eagle was to come, and that's why he started in assisting the Native Americans, because the Black seed, though, not the Caucasoid seed, because they mixed in, not the American Indian or Indian Americans, not them. You had indigenous Blacks who were Africans that were on the land as well. They mixed in with the Africans from that were enslaved, and you are the combination of those tribes coming from West Africa, right? And coming from the migrations from the tides that you read and set the record straight. With the Malian Blacks that came over, that Ben York and Yusuf Ali, the father of Ben York, and their family descended from, which were Ghanaians. Most of them were Ghanaians. Malians were nothing, that the old Ghana kingdom was no such thing as Mali in the 1700s. There was no such thing as Mali in the 1800s. What were they? They were Ghanaian, the old Ghana kingdom. And all of this is going to be on a map when you see the clip, will show it. It says, those that have skills should come forward. Tell Bill. Now, to answer your question, he said, why do I help them? I help them because Baba said help them. Because I'm Hawkeye. My name, I was named Hawkeye. And my mound is Rock Hawk Mound. There's two mounds. I want y'all to look this up so you can confirm certain things. There's two mounds in Edenton. There's Rock Eagle Mound and there's Rock Hawk Mound. Rock Hawk Mound is next to Rock Eagle Mound. These are mounds of birds. These birds are the bird clan, right? When you see that, right, you'll see, right, when you see that, you'll see that this is a spirit animal. So I was given the name Hawkeye because the father said we built those mounds in 1045 AD. So we were the indigenous Blacks, because we mixed in, we became this new nation. And when nations are born, you have to be born on your land and you have to establish who you are under a flag and under a constitution. So our constitution. Now, another thing someone was talking about, I don't know what's wrong with this guy. I'm not even going to mention his name. But when you say Nuwaupian Nation or Moors just people like Moors but the father wasn't speaking about Moors as in Noble Drali Moors. No. He was saying of black people, just African Black people. Moors means morenos. It's just another term, another language for a Black person. So you don't have to try to break down everything and try to create division. The mind is very divisive when you don't know a thing. People are fear of the unknown. Instead of finding out things, they'll rather stick into an area that they think they know. And if they don't know, they're afraid of it, and they create confusion around what they don't know, which I think makes people think that it's confusing. It's like, it's not confusion. You just don't know. Don't use confusing as I'm ignorant. That's just a clean word to say. It's confusing to put the blame on someone else, to say, oh, he's confusing you. No, I'm not confusing. Am I confusing? If I was tell me if I'm confusing, I will reiterate, because I speak a lot in this areas of actual facts, and the Father is redundant. So we were taught to repeat information if it's not clear. So don't let people make it appear as though it's confusing. You don't know your rights. No one ever questioned a vote when it was time to vote for Trump. No one questioned a vote when it was time to vote for Clinton. In fact, people may just go out and vote for Obama. It was a whole Obama campaign. Now when we say vote for Dr. Malachi York, all of a sudden it's confusing. That's Negroes for you. But it's okay. We're going to get past it. We're not going to wallow in the ignorance, because the facts are here. Any questions? Why does Jacob York? Oh, yeah, that's a funny question. Yes, ask your questions. Ask your questions. Okay, let me see if while you ask, let me think of any announcements. No, just the now or never vote. We do have a Telegram group where I'm okay with Telegram groups, but I don't really like Telegram groups because it's like, I don't know. Maybe I'm trying to figure out why I don't like them. They're okay, but it's like, it's so many groups. I don't want it to be so like, okay, this has become a normal feed where it's like, okay, someone else is posting, someone else is posting. I don't want to do that. When you get information from your nation's perspective, it's exclusive, it's work being done, and there's things that are moving, right? Tower Tech, I appreciate it. One thing that should be clear is also, okay, I wanted to let you know the flags, if you want flags, all of this is in support of the campaign. Because we campaign managers, one, if you want to be a campaign manager, email me. I know some of you all have. If you know me, I try to respond to all emails as prompt as possible. Some get past me, and they get past me. If there's a delay, I apologize, because I'm doing a lot and I like being busy. But you are my priority, answering your emails for books. I can to direct you to the publications, because that your soul is important, to get these actual facts so you can begin to grow in Wu Sabat and prepare for the next 24,000 years, your descendancy. You can teach them the right information. And two, the vote, which is the freedom. Those are the two things the Father prioritizes for us: his freedom, our freedom, and the doctrine. So that's what we focus on. The actual facts is where we get out. The Patra, you can email again for any of the publications. Also the flags, email me for the flags. The flags will be sent to you. All you do is send your payment, send your mailing address, and it'll be sent to you that same day or the next day. You can email me for the questions, any questions as well. Also, Nuwaupian Naturals. I don't know. Yeah, he's been in there long enough. Question: how can the spiritual schools help? And then, that's a good question. Who's that? The spiritual schools gives you the discipline to connect to your ancestors, because your ancestors want you all to be free, because they died not free. So they really want you all to get this done. They really want you all to come from up under the Adamite and his rule, right? They really want you to check and make sure that you do everything you can to liberate them and to liberate your descendants. So they are waiting for you all to make sure you chant. If yes, get your chants. Email for the chants. I sent some to some people, but you have to chant and pray. Get back in line with your deities and your gods. They're 25 to 30, depending on where they have to mail them to. So that's important. Email me it's no problem. It doesn't matter if you just tuning in right now or you've been reading or just been studying and you want to get back into it, you can email me today to get the directions, where the books, how much they are, and get your closest bookstore and where you can get them from, right? That's important. It don't matter. Don't feel like, oh, I'm not aware of what Wusabat is or what Nuwaupu is or what the nation is about. You can get the information. And you can get it. It's not whether 5 minutes or 50 years, it doesn't matter. The Father is here for all of us, his divine family. 2, his freedom and our freedom as a nation. No one is going to come hand it to us. No nation. Stop thinking someone is going to come and say, hey, Nubians, Nuwaupians of the West, how are y'all doing over there? You've been enslaved for 400 years. Have y'all figured it out? Y'all want us to help? Or you still want to be up under the Mukasu? You still want him abusing you? You still want him enslaving you? Okay, well, if that's how you want it, you don't want to do things on your own. Nobody's going to help you do that. And so stop thinking somebody's going to help and think, oh, we need reparations. We need this. Somebody need to come give us some money. These Negroes, like, what's his name? All these people saying, we need reparations. Nobody's sending you $1 billion to no NAACP. You don't have a government to allocate the money correctly. So stop acting like, right? Okay. I just seen your text. I got you. I appreciate that. Nobody's gonna come. That's my brother that just text me. Nobody's gonna come assist. Yeah, you're right, bro. Excuse me. Sorry about that sniffling. I hate sniffling in people's ear. So if you heard that, excuse me, my sinuses. But no, yeah, so we have to do it on our own. So yes, the spiritual part is connecting to your ancestors. That's why I said get the prayers and get your chants. Get those in the email. I'll send you the link so you can hear it. We need a bookstore in Guyana. Guyana, I got you on the list. Thank you, Nicholas. I appreciate you. Email me. Let's see what we can do and work something out because people want the books there. Until then, share this. Y'all should share this actual facts. I think we're on episode 17. Hopefully, I've been doing a good job where you all are getting things clear. I try to do my best, do my studies to make sure the facts are laid on the table. So if people are interested in the books, where are you getting the books in Trinidad? Email me. I got you. I'll let you know where. I'll let you know how. All of that. All right? Yeah, share. That's how we grow. We should be the biggest on YouTube. All these channels with this gossip, it's getting worse and worse. I know y'all tired of it. I'm tired of it. I'm like, this is garbage for the brain. They call it what is the word they use? Internet trash or some type of word, data garbage or some word they use now when you download so much filth offline from scrolling and it's not feeding your mind. Yeah, so I love you all. I love you all tuning in. Let me tell you. Oh, we've been getting some great replies, some emails from all over the world. It's just very, very assuring that this doctrine is getting out and that people are supporting the Father in flesh. What does the word Father mean? Oh, no, it just means Father. Our Father, literally. Maybe it's my accent. I don't know if I have an accent. Depending on where you are, I have an accent. Free the Father. Yes, it just means he's our Father. The Father is the one, the Father, the Heavenly Father in flesh for us. And as you begin to know and understand who he is and the incredible, remarkable things he's done and his divinity, man. Oh, yeah, brain rot. Oh, yeah, brain rot. That's what it's called. Y'all are funny. Yeah, so any other questions? There's some questions. So, yes, the spirituality. I got my flag. Yes, people did get their flags. Yes. Great question. The IDs. We're going to, once that website is up, the vote is in full effect. There's going to be global IDs going out. Global. High security IDs that makes you a part of our nation because you voted for Dr. Malachi Z. York. Your garbs too. You like these kind of garbs? All the garbs you see me wearing, I wear a different garb every week to let you know. You see the embroidery These guys getting fancy. They see them on YouTube, so they trying to impress you all with these garbs. So yeah, if you want some of these, you more than welcome. Just get your measurements. When you're ready, just get your measurements. Email these my measurements. I would like this color. All of the go back over it. I wear those different ones. All of those are available depending on your style, depending on the color you want. You can do it however you want, custom. I'll get the material for you. If you want to choose a certain material, you can say gold. I'll go pick it out. I'll make sure, and then I'll take it to the tailor. And that's how I do it. So I do a lot, even with the flags. Make sure the flags and families mailing the flags out. All of that helps the Now or Never campaign. Oh, email me, my brother. I know I appreciate it. Y'all can win. This is our royalty. When it hits the fan, they're gonna look and say, "Oh, them Nuwaupians over there, they different. They speak Sabbatic. They got a culture. They president. You know who their president is? You see they symbols: resurrection, double resurrection, life after life. That's what we're talking about. We're on a different page right now. We're prepared for the women. Yes, can't forget about the feminine. Okay, so when you email me about the feminine, I'll connect you with the feminine that does the female clothing, so y'all have y'all stuff too. Because the feminine garbs is incredible. They more royal than this. They have a scarf. They have it's all types of jewelry and so many things that the non-jewels that the feminine have, non-jewels that the male have. So you'll learn about that on the site as well. So all of that'll be there. Kids have Karadu. They have the garbs, the symbols, all of that. Once you wear it, your DNA gets restored because it connects you to your royal bloodline. So all of that is available. It's not something that's like, right? Man, I appreciate that. That's for the children in Ghana. I got to send you love for that. We're going to do a special, Did I like that? Did it show love? Okay, yeah. We're going to do a special, that's a good thing, good reminder. We're going to do a live with the children of Medina. There's a group of children that we assist, the Dr. Malachi York Foundation. Love you all too. I know you feel the energy. We want to move. Don't let nobody take this energy away, right? Don't let it get dead either, because sometimes you don't hear a few days and people get stale again. Don't fall back asleep, because you see the world. So we gotta gel tightly. We gotta come together tighter and tighter, because people are going to be standing on the outside looking in, trying to figure out, hey, who's that? I want to be a part of them. You got to be able to welcome them and defend our nation and defend the Father from this devilish attacks. The next, oh man, I totally forgot the extraterrestrial part. Wow. Okay, so we're going to do a part 2 on the ET conspiracy, because we didn't touch on Enlil, Nanar, and his descendants in their fight against Marduk, Ningizida on this planet as well. That's a whole different discussion, right? I think we'll sit part 2 for that. How are the ETs, these extraterrestrial beings, involved with the conspiracy against Dr. Malachi York as Marduk in flesh, right? Attempting to help and raise the African race. The Enlilites don't like Africans. They don't like the African seed. Enki and his sons married into the African seed. This is why you see Melchizedek assisting the African race, because his mother, Hesat, is a Nathar. She's of the deities of Africa. This question was asked from one of the brothers. He asked, how did the Anunnaki seed get mixed in with the African seed? Well, it was several instances where this breeding took place, where Enki, as the son of Anu, gave birth, or he didn't give birth, had a son by Hesat in Makmat, or Egypt, and she gave birth to Ningizida, who is Tehutwi, thrice times great. This is the author of they say the emerald stones, the emerald tablets. They speak about this wise green one, this being. He was the son of Heset, and because as a Nathar, as a deity, he was half Nathar, half Anunnaki. So he has just as much interest in the African seed as the Anunnaki race, but not amongst the Enlilites, who was warring against the two brothers' families. Enki and Enlil were warring against each other. Nanar and Marduk always warred, right? And this goes back thousands of years. So even as he incarnate on this planet, when he incarnated on this planet, Enlil's seed was trying to prevent Marduk, Ningizida, Tahuti, Malachi, right? Melchizedek, this angelic being, this avatar in flesh, to prevent him from waking you up to who they were. It wasn't Enki that was punished. He wasn't the one that was responsible for the actual disagreement. Disagreeable acts are not judged by it, like in religion, where this is good, this person is bad. They don't have religious doctrines that have good or bad in that way. That's religion. Religion created this is good, this is bad. If you do this, then you're all bad. If you do this, then you're good. You have to. That's not in the extraterrestrial realm. They don't have that type of protocol that they gave to the Adamites in their religious doctrine. Enlil was of a reptilian flesh-eating seed. They violated their laws by mixing in with the Adamite and having sex with their creation and raping them. Ningizida, the wise serpent, the son of Enki, right, because they mixed in with Africa and tied into Africa, is the only reason they look disagreeable to Enlil's seed. Not because they did anything wrong or disagreeable. No, they didn't violate, but they mixed in with the African descendants, and their blood, the Anunnaki blood, is in Africa. So when someone says, well, a lot of the Mesopotamian traditions, like someone emailed, and I'm gonna email a brother back who's from Nigeria, he was asking about the Hebrews in Africa and some of the traditions and rituals that they picked up from those tribes. It's because there were black seeds out of the Edomites, or from Esau's descendants, from out of the children of Jacob, Israel, and the descendants of Abraham. There was a lot of mixing of the Caucasoid and Canaanite and Adamite seed there, the white, red, ruddy race, but there was black seeds scattered in there that were protected. And they came into Africa, and they brought a lot of the Mesopotamian rituals or the religious rituals into Africa. And now our people are saying, well, we are the original Hebrews, or we are the original. You're only original insofar as that seed didn't mix in with the Canaanites of the cursed seed of Canaan, and they kept the rituals from the Mesopotamian doctrines. And they brought it into Africa. Not that it originated in Africa. There's a difference. So Enki mixing in with his African bloodline and assisting Ptah and with the genetic cloning of the Adamite, they all had worked together to breed this new race. It was the Enlilites that mixed their evil seed with the Adamites that caused that race to go bad. In Genesis chapter 6, where it says, and man had become evil, the Adamites had become evil continuously. You see that it was after this fallen beings had mixed in and raped them. And it said they took the wives. That was Enlil's seed. So that negative, disagreeable seed mixing in with the Adamites created the evil race of the Adamites and their behaviors. And that is what has infected society. That evil behavior, the abuse, the justification of evil. And this Enlil, Nanar, right, hated Ningizida in the garden. And he said, I will place hate in the seed. This is why they hate Ningizida, because the Lord of Genesis, who was Enlil and Nanar, Enlil, the Anunnaki side of Enlil, the brother, one of the sons of Anu, that Lord in Genesis hated the serpent because he informed this Adamite, this new creation, what the Enlilites didn't want them to know. And because of that, he said, I'm going to make sure they hate you. And who is the you? His Excellency, the Nathar, the deity, Ningizida, Tahutwi in flesh. So the religious world has come out and attacked Dr. Malachi Z.K. York. That's why the religious world, now that we're teaching the actual facts, we make so much sense in reasoning. You're trying to figure out how the rest of the world doesn't see the same information you see. How they don't see how this being lied. How they don't see that they're not getting answers to the questions, that the answers to their prayers. How they don't see that this being is asking for sacrifices and blood, and it speaks about cannibalism and bondage and killing of the Israelites and placing them in all of this murder and treachery and deception and killing and all of these things in the first few books. You're trying to figure out how the religious world doesn't see that. Is because they're under the spell of the Enlilites, that they cast a spell when they came down. And the book of Enoch speaks about how they taught this Adamite witchcraft. We spoke about that last week in episode 16. They taught them witchcraft and gave them sorcery and white magic and taught them how to use spell incantations and use ghosts to cast spells and used it as called ghost spells or ghost spells, the spell of ghost worship and spirit worship and spooks and spirits and ghouls and gargoyles and monsters or moon stars, all of that. These beings, Enlil hates Ningizida for teaching who he truly is, that he's the evil one. He was the one that caused the killing of Cain and Abel. How? Because he could have warned Cain, right? Or he could have warned Abel that Cain was going to kill him. He didn't, though. He didn't warn Abel that your brother is a vexed, jealous, treacherous man, and he's going to commit the first murder. So run and hide. I'm going to protect you. I'm not going to protect him. I'm going to protect you. He ended up protecting the killer. You protected Cain, and Cain committed the murder. And you asked him, where's your brother? He said, I don't know. Am I my brother's keeper? He gave you a sarcastic, arrogant response, and you still protected. I thought eye for an eye, tooth for a tooth. If he killed his brother, you should be killed. But no, you said whoever find you, he said whoever's going to find him is going to slay him. He said, no, I'm going to protect you. So they were protecting killers because that was Enlil's seed. And then Gezida, the serpent of the garden, explained and was giving this wise information. And in his promise in that book, he said, I'm going to make the world, I'm going to place enmity between thy seed and the woman's seed, meaning the descendants of the Adamites, the Caucasoid, these red ruddy race is going to hate you, Ningizida. They're going to hate you, Malachi, because you're giving out information that the world, we don't want them to know. We don't want them to know that we are the type of deities that are asking for sacrifices and looking for blood. We don't want them to know that. Stop writing those books informing those black. Stop informing them of who we are. Stop teaching about extraterrestrials. We don't want them to know that their God is just a race of beings coming back to harvest the planet. Why are you teaching them that? Why are you trying to resurrect them? Why are you trying to remove them and the spell from them when we want the spell over them? This is why they hate the enmity there. That's the extraterrestrial conspiracy against Dr. Malachi York, along with the Georgia United States conspiracy for us to prevent us from building our nation. And then the pawns, the black devils that were used by the white and the gray devil extraterrestrials, all of them against Dr. Malachi York, but he's still standing strong for you all's sake. That's a whole different conversation. I tried to condense it because of the time, but I hope that was kind of clear, because a lot of that information is like, it's heavy. So we have to take our time. For new listeners, I hope, you go back to some of the old episodes to make that clear. But let me know if that was clear in that. He says, but is Inky not being held accountable for conspiring to do something to Enlil Seed first? No, he wasn't conspiring to do anything to Enlil Seed. Enlil was upset because Inky had married one of Alelu's daughters, and Alelu had tried to remove Anu from the throne, actually did try to get him removed from the Most High's throne. And Alelu being cast to earth. He was running because he was going to be killed. And so he tried to give Enki one of his daughters as a truce to see if he could negotiate with Anu on the behalf of him, because he married his daughter, Damkina, and Enki had took her as his wife. Enlil was not pleased with that, and he was upset because he felt betrayed because Alelu had deceived Anu, and he felt as though Enki had betrayed him and Anu by taking Damkina, his Alelu's daughter. And because of that, that's where one of the conflicts started, but it wasn't the initial conflict. It was just one of the conflicts that began. They're brothers. So at one point, Enlil was a devil or Satan. Another point, the father explains in the Wu Sabat lessons, depending on who you're disagreeing with, will you be a devil? Like he explained, the same way you may feel as though you're doing an agreeable thing by feeding your family chicken. This is an example who gave that, right? Right? He gave an example that you feeding your family chicken is a good thing to your children because they eat it. But to the chicken's family, you are a devil. You just killed their Uncle Ray Ray, right? The healthiest chicken they had in the family. I mean, I don't know if a chicken named Ray Ray, but I'm just saying, right? To animals, you are not this righteous being that you try to portray to the world, to the religious world. Look how you enslave. Look how you enslave animals for your own pleasure. You place whales that used to a whole ocean in a swimming pool and make them do tricks for tuna fish, right? Look what you do to gorillas and monkeys. Do you see the type of animals and mammals they do studies on and kill these animals every day to do cancer tests and drug testing? And you walk in and you look like you got a cross on your neck and you praying to a God, and they looking at you like your God allows you to do this to us. They look at you as a devil. So it just depends on what side you're on, right? There's no problem. It depends on what side you're on, determines if you're classified as a devil. You get me? So it's not that's when you come out of the religious doctrine, then you'll see things from a different perspective. A lot of us, some of us are still there, and we know we'll get there eventually. But the thing is that it's not a good or bad thing amongst the extraterrestrials, amongst these Elohim. What's good for the galactical universe, the Father says, it's not about being good, it's about being right. Being and doing the right thing. Some people who, and you can be disagreeable, but be obedient. You can, of some people who have just not agreeable to most things, they will get the job done because they're not agreeing with nobody. They just focused on getting the job done. So they don't look at it like how human beings have set up this fabricated moral compass that dictates this person is righteous and that person is righteous. That's why a lot of human beings often judge each other erroneously, because you're quick to judge a person based on a circumstance, but a killer in jail can save a person's life. The Father explained that in the Potential or the Mind book, where an inmate that's locked up for murder can end up saving one of the CO officers, correction officer's life. And just like a person who may be a righteous so-called preacher or someone who is upright, who live by the words, and then they do something drastically what looks as bad, and then all of a sudden they're the devil. Does that eliminate all the good part? Just because you do one or two things that may not be agreeable to your family, does that make you a bad person for the rest of the existence? No. Right? And just because you do a bunch of good things doesn't mean that you're not capable of doing the bad. Just because you do a bunch of bad things doesn't mean that you're not capable of doing good. It just depends on what you're doing, as long as you don't harm or hurt, right, others in your way or offend. We have a way of how we live, and the Father laid it out in our patarat, on our way of life. So those things have to be learned, and as you continue your studies, you'll be able to digest and understand our way, because we've lost our way living in these Adamite systems, and that's why the religious world is so confused. And so living in natural nature by the laws of nature, you'll be all right. So y'all just touched on another subject, and I went on another conversation, but I hope that's clear. And I think it is. I appreciate that. So Anu, Enlil, and Enki are originally Trinity. Well, I can say, I can see how there could be a Trinity, but we deal with a quadity because with the feminine, so you always have to add. They all had counterparts, so it wasn't just centered around the masculine, but they did have a counterpart. But for the most part, it was dual. But the Trinity, yes, in a way, yeah, because Trinities come out of Abraham, Isaac, right, and Ishmael, right, Adam, Cain, and Abel, the rivalries, Solomon, David, Solomon, Adonijah. You see that? So that story of brother rivalry from Enki and Enlil trickled down into your biblical text, and you see it pop up with Ishmael and Isaac, Solomon and Adonijah, Solomon going to the north, Israel, Adonijah going to the south to Judea. And so he was actually the black seed. Solomon was the mixed seed. So you see how that conflict has meshed its way into those books. So yeah, somebody put chicken. So I guess, is that okay? So what about the Natharu or Egyptian gods? Okay, what about them? They are deities of the pantheon of the ancient Egyptian, our gods, the original Nathar, our overseers that go by many different names. And you can find that explanation in the Sacred Wisdom of Tahuti and the Black Book, where the Father speaks about those deities. Now, to make it clear, I'll just reiterate this for conversation purposes. I mean, for actual facts, for clarity. When you look, the Father, there was a plan, extraterrestrial plan for the Father and his incarnation from two groups of beings, actually three. Parazaku, the Riskians, the Anunnaki, and the Anunna and the Nathar, Panatharu. Panatharu are the original deities of our creation of natural nature. You'll find this explained in the creation of the gods. I think it may be episode 15 or 15, something like that. Yeah. That's explained there. Those deities are the original creators of a material world, born out of the 9 mother goddesses, the womb of dark matter, space, from the feminine energy, from the mind of Atum, through panspermia, the creation of the universes, through this orb, as we talked about, this spherical circle, perfected geometrical shape that the universe uses as creation, as the blueprint of creation. It's the circle. So throughout the universe, everything is created out of a seed, right? The womb, plants, eggs, planets, suns, all types of celestial bodies. Once they come together as a gas, they form an orb, and born through the primordial waters of Nun, which is Nunet, which is the feminine. And that birth takes place from our deities Panatharu. Anunnaki are deities who exist within the all. All is, as we discussed, it's a concept that predates religious doctrines. All gods, all deities, all angels, all hells, all devils, all extraterrestrials, everything existence known and unknown exists within all. Pa'ut. That's the highest existence that you overstand in Wu Sabat. This is not explained in religion. They don't know anything about this in religious doctrine. The Father explains, like I said before, one class on the land, what he did was, he said, someone asked him, can you explain the all? He said, the best way I can explain it to human beings is, he drew a circle on the board. It was perfect circle, actually. I remember him drawing the circle, and then he erased it. He said, that's the all, because he said, if I put a circle around it, then this is everything in existence. But he had to remove the circle boundaries, because he said outside of the circle, you would think it's nothing, but all is, it still exists. So the best way to explain it is a circle with no boundaries. And that's the best way you can understand that in this point of your existence in the physical, because you are mostly defining things by definitions. You define things by books, Webster. So in order to understand something, you say, okay, let me go look here. Oh, this is the definition. You can't define all, because if you define it, then you'll confine it. And you can't confine it because it's outside of definition. So it's things that you know, that you don't know, and all beings, all deities, Allah, Jehovah, Yahweh, Enki, Enlil, Anu, all exist within all. Heaven, everything, every planet, every universe, multiverse, exists within all. And you had different existences and creations and time belts and worlds and galaxies and star systems exist within all. And some beings have been around for 76 trillion years. That's before you can imagine time to exist. And air pockets, etheric pockets of existence. And these beings are etheric beings. Our Father, as an incarnated Etherian, because of who he is, has incarnated, and the body of Dr. Malachi York houses this etheric being. 3 different beings, thrice times great, houses this miraculous divine entity that knows all. He knows anything you can ever ask. I'm gonna tell you that. And I can't even get into the miracles I done seen. One day I'll have a lecture on it, but I'm sure he's come to you. Some of you are in dreams. Y'all email me and say, yeah, Baba came to me in a dream and said some people I never even met. I talked to him the first time. It was like, yeah, bro, I talked to you, you was in my dream. Baba I'm like, really? Wow, this is amazing. People from all over the world, because he's a dream visitor. He doesn't have to connect to people just physically. Some of you know him. Y'all been in contact with him for years. He protected you all for years before you even came into the doctrine. He's the one that guided you to the doctrine. He's the one that guided you, and someone helped you and you didn't even know how they helped you. Answered your prayers, and you was trying to figure out who it was. Things that happen in your life that you can't explain. That's how he does it. He doesn't have to explain everything, but you know that if you touch him and read his books, you know who he is. And no one can tell you that. People think you crazy because they don't have that connection. But don't let anyone think you crazy, because it's always the crazy people that get things done. You're the ones that break the spell. You're the one that break the mold, and you the one that leads this new cycle in, because you're not going to think like everyone else. People are going to get left behind in their religious doctrines, right? So you have to be the ones to take a grab of your own mind and think with reasoning and be a part of the movement of the Nuwaupian Nation rising again, because you are that. And this is the only salvation. That's how it is. And there's nothing else to be said about that. A lot to be said, but no argument. People don't argue with the actual facts. They don't come in here trying to have any debates. They don't debate in the comments, none of that, because you can't argue with facts, So any other questions? We at the 3-hour mark. Hey, we kicked it for 3 hours again. We haven't had one of these in a while. I always thought about So we all clear? Is everything clear? Is the conspiracy clear? Are we aware of why? And they tried to kidnap our president? Are we aware of how we have to free him? Are we aware that we can vote? Are we aware of these things? Any extra questions? I know you want questions. You have a lot of questions. Just email me. I'll try to get to them as quickly as possible. I wake up, I'm 4 hours ahead of y'all. I'm in Ghana, so I wake up early to email. So if you email me tonight, you most likely you get the answer in the morning. So I try to make sure I do that, because I don't want anybody delayed. Tell us about 2030. You got 3.5 years. You close by, so you got to prepare. I'm telling you about it right now. When it's all said and done, this nation has to be up. Our president has to be in place, and our people need a salvation, a place for refuge. Because when it hits the fan, no one is going to help us but us. So y'all have to put the legwork in now, and it's easy to do. Just all you all have to do is stand up and say, this is who you with. Oh man, it's my pleasure. I appreciate it, everyone. Thank you all. Tawutek, Tawakum. So until next time, we're going to vote. Let me know what y'all would like in the comments, what you would like the next lecture to be, or I'll choose one. But if someone once a specific topic y'all need clarity on or some more explanation, I'll do that. We're at the 3-hour mark. I appreciate you all. Can you do a video about 2030? Yes, I will. How to prepare? Surely I will. I love you all. Thanks for tuning in. Right? Please spread the word. Let them know the facts are out. No more games. We're here. We're here to stay. All right. Free the Father. Free your nation. Free yourself. And let's defeat this devil and get him off the planet so our future generations can live healthy and safe. All right. Oh, it's no problem. No, don't worry about it. Don't worry about it. You'll catch up. If you got any questions, just email, okay? And it's in the description box. So enjoy your evening. Have a great weekend. And make sure you share this channel and join and subscribe. I love to hear from you all again. Tawakkul.